Welcome to the September meeting of the Waikīkī Neighborhood Board. Get organized there. Okay, board members. I'd like to welcome our board member and the current Mrs. Hawaii, Melissa Phillip. Congratulations. Oh, that's the best way to start a meeting. Mr. Mers is in London and unable to be with us tonight. The presenter of Board Business 10A contacted me yesterday and had to cancel the presentation. And Catherine, do you have an announcement for the board tonight?
Thank you, Chair Finley. I have recently been made aware that I supposedly was impolite to a fellow board member. So I wish, although I have no memory of this, I wish to apologize to the board and to the audience if such a thing happened. And I'm truly sorry. I don't mean to be impolite. I hold this board in great respect. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me bring to your attention Neighborhood Plans Section 2-14-117A requires that all board members shall promote and preserve the order and decorum of the board's proceedings. Please follow that in the neighborhood plan if you would, so we can have an orderly meeting. We'll move on to our business tonight. First, the Honolulu Fire Department, who is not here. Honolulu Police Department, Lieutenant, welcome.
I'm Lieutenant Ono from the Waikīkī District 6 Police Department. Just go over the stats for August. Robbery, we had 9, just as from the previous one was 6. Burglaries, 13. Previous one was 6. Thefts, 169. Previous one was 176. UAVs, 18. Previous one was 12. Assaults, 18. Previous one was 43. Sex crimes, 6. Previous month, 9. Skateboard, bicycle on sidewalk citations, we had 48. Previous one was 1. Speeding, we had 36 citations. Previous one was 8. Parking, we had 2,613. Previous one was 1,816. Loud muffler and prohibited noise, we had 13 citations, 6. Park closures, 83 citations, 5 arrests, and the previous one was 60 citations, 7 arrests. And total calls for service, 3,444, and the previous one was 3,789.
Good. Questions for the Honolulu Police Department? Oh, okay, go ahead,
Hi.
sir.
Test. Oh, wait, okay. My name's Curtis Miller. I live across the street, Liliokalani Gardens. I'm on the board over there. So I represent, actually, I'm the president of the board. I represent about 380 homeowners who get to listen to all the mufflers and loud noise going down Alawai. I appreciate that you're starting to cite people, but from what I heard, you cite about 4 times as many skateboarders and bicyclers as you do loud mufflers. On weekends, it's like a parade of loud mufflers and motorcycles going down Kalakaua. It's almost as bad on Alawai. I just wanted to know what your plan is to increase the enforcement of that.
Well, I don't know if they have a set plan going on right now for loud mufflers or anything. We're kind of in a transition mode right now. You know, we're gonna be switching majors from Sunday. So kind of depends on what he has planned. You know, we can bring it up with him and see what he wants done.
It's a fairly new law. Excuse me for interrupting. It's a fairly new law, 2350, and I thought maybe there would be a little bit more oomph behind it because the quality of life has been going down, down, down year after year because of the loud noises on, especially those two streets. So whatever you can do is much appreciated. I think everybody in here would agree. Thank you so much. Thanks for everything else you do. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Other questions for HPD? Just a second, Tim. Anything on? Okay, I'll take Tim, followed by Jacob.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you could convey to Major Slater, thank you for everything he did. We saw a pretty big improvement while he was at the helm. And I met the new major down at Honolulu Holly last Wednesday. And I encourage you to maybe have him come down to the next board meeting and introduce himself and his plans and projections. But thanks to Major Slater. He
I will
did a
do
great
that.
job. Thank you.
Go ahead, Daniel.
So this is news. Can you explain the change in majors?
I'm sorry?
Can you explain why the change in majors? I'm just learning. I think a lot of us are probably just learning this.
I don't know why they do, the command decided to change majors, so I have no,
Who's the new major?
it's Major Braden Ogata.
And maybe tell us a little bit about him if you know.
As far as I don't really know.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Keel. I'm a new lieutenant to this district on night watch. I was working out in Pearl City. One of the unique perspectives that I have is not only am I newly assigned to this district, but like you, I'm a resident. So I echo some of the same concerns and challenges that you guys have, because not only do I work here, I live here. If I can backpedal for 1 second, sir, to your question about the loud mufflers. You're 100% correct. It's pretty much out of control, especially on certain nights. So I want to give that as a disclaimer. Traffic enforcement is definitely a priority for the patrolmen that come in and work at night, because that's a lot when those are happening. So to answer your question directly, as the night watch lieutenant, when my people are not doing calls for service and responding, we have certain things set up. We had recent projects that dealt with e-bikes. And I don't know if you're aware, maybe you've seen some of the motocross people riding the dirt bikes, the four-wheelers, the e-bikes. So there's a lot of work to be done. We're aware of it, we're on it, and we are going to continue enforcement opportunities in that regard. So Lieutenant Steve, he works days. I work nights. We're going to start coming as a team here. So if you have questions that pertain to days, you can refer it, to Steve. If it's nights, it can be me. Acting Captain Blake Arita is going to step away from coming to these meetings with you folks, mainly because it's the watch commander's responsibility. So we're going to be filling in. Sir, as far as your question about why we're getting a new major, I don't want to be slight here. That's really a decision that's made by HPD leadership. I feel that Major Slater made a big impact in the time he was here, and maybe some of you in the room feel that way. I can tell you he's not being moved because of poor performance. He does have a talent with the traffic division, and apparently there was some things there that maybe needed some additional attention. So not to speak for the chief and his administrative team, but he is going to go to the traffic division where he can utilize his talents there. As far as the incoming major, truthfully, I've never worked for him. I don't know much about him. But with that being said, he did ascend through the ranks. He's been a lot of different places. I'm sure he's an educated, talented man. He'll probably show up here and talk with you folks, and you guys can have some FaceTime with him if you're interested.
Thank you.
Does that kind of
Jacob?
cover some of the questions?
Sorry. Got it. Jacob?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for coming in person this month. Really appreciate it that you guys can make your presence here. I just have a couple of concerns. The first one being, as I commute to and from Waikīkī, it just seems like jaywalking has gotten a lot worse, specifically the area by the Ilikai. people crossing that street where there's no crosswalk there. Now, that's putting all sorts of motorists and pedestrians at risk when people are doing that. And then just really all up and down the side streets in the Alawai. This is one of the reasons why I keep asking for 24/7 foot patrols here. There's just so much going on. And by the time any one of us has a moment to pull out our phones and call 911, any sort of alleged perpetrator is already long gone, and we could only give you the vaguest of descriptions. And the other part is, I don't think I caught it in your monthly report. Were you guys able to report on any environmental crimes enforcement, such as littering or people dumpster diving, things like that? Or is that something you guys could report on in the future?
Okay, so a lot to unpack with your question. Let's start first with the jaywalking in multiple places. So jaywalking is only jaywalking if you are doing it within 200 feet of a marked crosswalk. So let's give that as a disclaimer. As far as the area you're talking about, I would say, and maybe you'd agree, that a lot of the people doing that are not residents. They're guests that are coming here to visit us for the first time. Your question, you made a statement of, could we take enforcement action? Well, we could, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, but if we really want to kind of extend the aloha spirit to our visitors and guests, I've instructed a lot of my officers to give more of a verbal warning, just to educate the people that are visiting us so they can be safe and have a great experience. I don't feel comfortable as a watch commander giving tickets to tourists who are adults and probably know better, or maybe don't kind of know, because if some of us from the mainland, jaywalking really isn't jaywalking. You cross the street when you think it's safe, and you do that at your own discretion. So please know that my guys and girls at work would, instead of giving citations for jaywalking to tourists, it would be more of a verbal warning. As far as environmental crimes, we don't really handle environmental crimes. If you're talking about EPA, or I don't know what exactly you mean by that. But as far as statistics tonight, I know that Steve and myself were not able to give any specifics regarding that as far as, right, Steve, was it dumpster diving? Yeah, we didn't, more like, we don't have documentation on if our officers gave citations for criminal littering. I will tell you that at night we have our ATV detail. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. Those officers proactively enforce crimes like that: urinating in public, criminal littering, warrant arrests. So they're out and about, but I don't have the specific totals for you on like criminal littering, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was just looking for more like littering, and it just seems to be a problem with trash everywhere. People just dumping stuff in the Alawai Canal with abandon. So if we could, it would be really appreciated if you guys could try to have some sort of measure on whatever littering enforcement there is. I think that'd just be great. Thank you.
No, well, thank you. You're coming from a good place. So
John?
thanks for the question.
John?
Hi, Lieutenant. John Dutzman, we met at the community walk. How are
John,
you?
it's nice to see you again. How you doing?
Good. To answer his question, Jacob's question, in my area, the overwhelming amount of misdemeanor arrests are for quality of life crimes, park hours, park rules, stuff like that. So as far as I can tell, the police are being as proactive as they can be, given the people you have. But I just want to go back to this muffler thing,
Sure.
and then I want to tie it into Waianae, okay?
Waianae is in West Side Waianae?
Yeah, a Waianae bulldozer guy with a guy bulldozed everybody,
Okay.
everybody got shot and everything else.
Sure.
This muffler thing has been a bubbling issue for years here. Not my top priority. I'm more worried about our repeat offenders here, but it's been brought up ever since I've been here. In my opinion, as a guy who lives next to the zoo, which is the staging area for all the drag races and everything else every weekend for the last 5 years, I could easily see how this muffler thing and being woken up by mufflers every night, 5, 6 times a night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, could lead to a bulldozer thing. Not to justify it, but it could. With the right ingredients of alcohol and drugs on either side, it could all blow up. So I really suggest that that becomes a priority. And my suggestion would be to put in speed bumps on Kapahulu, because that's the drag strip outside of our place. And that would end the drag racing and the mufflers. It also goes on at Cohio. But my concern is somebody's going to have the equivalent of a bulldozer plowing over people and shooting people because of this. Because if you interrupt somebody's sleep long enough, it's a form of torture. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, sir.
The Waikīkī Board has moved up citizens' concerns to the beginning of the meetings. Everybody here has an opportunity to ask your questions, but there are some topics that do not really pertain to the police. So my suggestion is maybe you could stay a little 10 minutes longer. That's never been done before. To just hear the concerns of the citizens. For example, my issue is about trash pickup at 3 a.m. When I talked to Major Slater, I said to him, if a contractor was out on the street at 3 o'clock in the morning working, you would give that contractor citation. He said, yes, we would. And I said, would you arrest them? He said, well, we try not to. We would talk to them and hope that they would stop. But if it comes to that and they continue working, that's a viable alternative. I said, the trash pickup at 3 a.m., you can't do anything. And he said, you're right, we can't do anything. So there are some concerns of people who will get up and say, you know, their story. And if you could just maybe stay another 10 minutes or so, just to listen so you know what's going on totally with the community, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Sure. If I can, if you don't mind, before you put the mic down, just so you know that I heard you correctly, let me repeat back a couple of your requests.
Sure.
The first request is you'd like us to stay back for 10 minutes just to kind of absorb what the community and
Correct.
the issues are. Is that the point?
Sure.
Okay, that's easy. Yeah,
Sure.
we can do that.
Right.
The second thing that you brought up was if a contractor was working, I want to share something with you. Contractors can't do work on a city and county roadway without a permit. So I don't know the conversation you had with Major Slater, but where we would come in is,
Yeah, my conversation was about the time.
right, so
Yeah.
if you allow me to finish.
Sure.
So when contractors do work, because you'll see my tie-in a minute here, and I can see why you're annoyed with that. In order to do work on a city and county roadway, the contractor is issued a permit. The permit has a start time. So your example of a contractor working at 3 or 4 in the morning, the reason why police can get involved in that matter is because we're going to look at the terms of the permit and we're able to enforce that. So that's how we can enforce that. As far as the dumpsters, and I think I remember you, were you at the citizens, when we had the walk, was that you with the signs that have signs that talk about trash
Well,
pickup?
There's a picture here, but you can't see me in the picture.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm going to ask Senator Moriwaki to please give me the email of this picture because my sign's there. Yeah, I'm the man.
Got it.
I'm the man.
So I appreciate your passion. So as far as, remember now, the trash pickup is done by a private company, right? The trash pickup is done by a private company, and they're contracted by, I'm not sure who. I think as far as a police matter, Major Slater is correct.
He is, yes.
But I understand what you're saying because
Right.
the trucks are beeping and the things are going. But again, maybe that's more of a elected official type of, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And then obviously,
How about 2.5 years?
well, maybe try their other ear. Maybe you were talking in the left ear. Maybe try the right ear.
Good
But,
point, good
yeah,
point.
With that said, thanks for your bringing that to our attention. And I know I'm on shift tonight until 7:30 the next morning. So staying here for 10 minutes to be with you folks is
Right.
not an inconvenience. It's not a problem.
And I thank you. You're a good addition to the police force for our community.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming here. I like the tag team, but you will be regular. I think you said that. You'll be,
So I have a counterpart, another lieutenant that works nights with me, depending on how the schedule works. Either he'll be coming or I'll be coming. And then Lieutenant Steve has a counterpart on days. So there's 4 of us that are here. So there's a possibility that you may see 2 additional faces, but it'll be a rotation.
okay. I mean, we had been asking for someone consistent so that we can continue conversations rather not have independent conversations and void each time. So hopefully the 4 of you all can continue to communicate as you take turns, but appreciate you guys and we look forward to having more conversations with you.
No, no, we're happy to be here. Thanks for the dialogue.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being with us tonight.
Okay, we're good? Anything else?
Thanks for being here.
Okay. Okay. All right. Real quick. I was going to say, any more questions? You guys got to provide refreshments or something.
Have 2.5 minutes? How about 1/2 minute? Just a half.
Another okay.
Just a quick, I'm sorry to beat this up, but it's about, would it be helpful if we presented a formal resolution about the mufflers and noise? Would it be helpful? I know that there's already a law in place, but 1.5 years ago, we did the same thing for sirens. I think this board created a resolution and it was submitted. And eventually a law was passed to give HPD, EMT more discretion as far as not using their sirens, especially in the middle of the night. Do you think that that would be helpful? Would it be heard, or is it just useless?
So you mean the sirens on the police cars that maybe we?
No. We didn't address the police. What we addressed was just fire and EMT,
I see.
their sirens. It's gotten a lot better. I think people would agree that it's gotten better in the early hours of the morning. But do you think that a resolution is meaningless, or would it be perhaps helpful, a formal resolution from the council?
So how's this? If you're feeling some kind of way about police sirens at 4 a.m.
Not
then
the
it's-
sirens, sir. It's about the enforcing the new muffler law.
Okay, so we already have on the books
Okay.
the ability to enforce the mufflers. I believe that off the top of my head, I think loud muffler is $47 ticket.
Oh, I thought it
I
was.
think I could be wrong. It's been a couple years since, well, don't quote me, but it's a
Okay.
traffic, it's an equipment issue. It's not tied to their driver's license. So we have the ability as the police to definitely enforce that. It's already on the books. Again, it's an equipment
Okay.
issue. So someone shows us their license, we write the citation. It doesn't go to the license. It actually goes, it's an equipment tag. And I thought it was 47. Maybe it's 72, but
I thought I read 70 or 100 to 300, but I could be
for a loud muffler, $300?
100 to 300. I'm not sure.
No, yeah, no.
Okay, you ought to know.
Although, hey, if it was $300, maybe people would take it more seriously.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I've taken a lot of time and I really appreciate yours. Thank
Yeah,
you very
happy to be
much.
here,
Thank
sure.
you.
As I understand it, it's 72, but you don't have to fix the muffler. So it's kind of a strange law. Anything else for HPD? Seeing nothing. Lieutenant, thank you for
Okay,
joining us in
everybody.
Waikīkī.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, fire department. Welcome.
Geez, how do I follow that? That was really well done. Well, good evening, everybody. Normally, I start the show, but today, I'll say second fiddle to HPD, which did a very good job. I was watching from the back of the room. My name is Lee Marquez. I'm the captain from the Waikīkī Fire Station. I got my ladder truck out there and my boys in the back. And I'm here to deliver last month's statistics as given to me by our Community Relations Office. Let me get my eyes out. All right. For the month of August, our numbers for the statistics for the month of August go as follows. For fires, we had none. Very good. Wildland brush, Diamond Head, we had no reports. Nuisance fires, there were 2. And if anyone's heard the report before, nuisance fires include rubbish fires that are outside of a structure or vehicle. 13 activated alarm calls. Emergencies, medical emergencies, 177. We had 4 motor vehicle collisions, 2 ocean rescues, and 1 hazardous materials incident. Now, along with my statistics comes a little safety message, also handed down to me from our Community Relations Office. And this one involves the move over for emergency vehicles tips. All right. It states, drive with caution and obey all traffic laws, including the move over law, to help protect our first responders while performing their duties near or on a roadway. This is more than a public courtesy. It's the law. This is Hawaii Revised Statutes 291C-27. They gave me a couple bullets that follows. Actually, let's see. So this statute requires the driver of a vehicle that is approaching an emergency vehicle that is stopped for an emergency, that is stopped for an emergency, in the investigation of a possible traffic violation, rendering assistance to a police officer or other official duties, as indicated by the flashing emergency lights of the stopped emergency vehicle. These drivers shall, one, slow down to a reasonable and prudent speed that is safe under the circumstances of an emergency road situation ahead. If necessary, the driver shall come to a complete stop before making a lane change. Number two, make a lane change into the adjacent lane if necessary, and it is safe to do so, or if possible, 2 lanes over, which leaves 1 lane between the driver and the emergency vehicle. And note, emergency vehicles means police, fire, EMS, ocean safety, freeway service patrol, tow trucks, and even some of the state and county vehicles while personnel are working. That completes my safety tip of the month. Any questions?
Catherine, you have a question for the fire department.
I noticed you have a black stripe across your badge.
Yes, as of recently, just as recent as just a couple weeks ago, we lost one of our firefighters due to an illness. It was a sudden loss that no one really knew about till it happened. So all the guys department-wide are swearing this in his honor.
Any other questions for HFD? Yes, sir. No. Sorry, Michael.
You may have
Sorry.
heard me saying something about what was a perceived reduction in siren use in the early hours of the morning.
I did.
We appreciate the hell out of that. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Is it possible to reduce siren use during the day?
In the day? Well, I think in the day, what we're looking at now is more foot traffic, more vehicles on the road. So the daytime use, I think, is more, we do it because definitely for necessity. The discretionary part, you know, I can still call it discretion. And quite honestly, it's because of those reasons I would say I would definitely use it. The evening time, I'm very familiar with our conversations we've had in the past, and I have exercised my discretion. I don't know if that's across the board amongst all the different captains on different watches, but I heard you acknowledge it earlier, and I was going to thank you for that.
You're welcome. We really appreciate that in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Other questions for the fire department? Just one quick one for me. This 172 times you did medical emergencies, were you followed by an ambulance for the same emergencies?
Right. So my count is our response count out of here of the Waikīkī Fire Station. My 177 responses the past month are just, I always respond with an ambulance. But sometimes the ambulances respond without me. So you have my 177, and however the dispatch sends companies out, sometimes they don't require a fire truck. So my 177 plus whatever EMS is doing on their own too.
Well, the numbers are. Thank you for
I
coming.
appreciate
Huh?
that.
What?
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Thanks to HPD for softening the crowd.
Next, we have Dominic Diaz with the Board of Water Supply.
Good evening, Dominic Diaz, Honolulu Board of Water Supply. Happy to report there were no main breaks last month. We currently don't have any construction projects. Just a quick general announcement, the Board of Water Supply, in conjunction with various city, state, and community organizations and agencies, are celebrating or observing the Imagine a Day Without Water event. This is Saturday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this is going to be at the Kapolei Regional Park. There's going to be a lot of events, rain barrel workshops, zero escape plan activities, foods, crafts, things like that. For more information, you can go to our website, boardofwatersupply.com/onewaterhawaii, and they'll have all the information on the event there. If you looked at the agenda for tonight, you may have seen a presentation later on the McCully Bridge crossing, a 16-inch water main crossing on McCully Bridge. The presentation has been canceled. There were some late comments that came in, which have led to a partial redesign of the project. So I will continue to update you as that progresses and let you know. I think it was scheduled for construction in late 26, early 27, but that'll probably get pushed back a little. So I'll keep everybody posted on the status. And that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions on behalf of the Board of Water Supply at this time.
Questions for Board of Water Supply? I don't see any. How are we doing on usage? Are we up or down or?
Usage, short term, actually, we've been down. You know, we had some recent rains. So the very short term, we're down. Historically, we are still trending downward. You know, if we look at, say, a 20 plus year, the per capita use and the total demand as well is down. You know, a lot of it has to do with changes in plumbing code, you know, high efficiency fixtures. That said, the Board of Water Supply still is very active in our rebate program. So if anybody's looking to change out older toilets, you know, some of the larger gallon per flush type toilets, we are still offering great rebates on that. So you can always go to our website and just search rebates. We've got residential rebates, commercial rebates, a lot of things that we're funding and partnering with there. So I think a lot of that, you know, aggressive conservation, recycled water out in Eva, you know, we're doing a lot of things to try and bring down the demand on the potable, you know, groundwater resources. So yeah, we will always encourage people to be mindful of usage and actively conserve. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to take those as well.
Greg,
Just a question on the McCully Bridge. You mentioned the water main. Is that water main, if you're facing Mauka, on the right side where it's got like a covering or something? I don't know what you want to
Yeah,
call
so
it.
I believe there's two water mains there. There's a 16-inch main and a 30. I believe it's a 30 is the larger. The 16-inch main is the older main, and it's basically held up with some brackets, you know, metal brackets, and there was some, you know, spalling concrete in areas. The main was aged. The brackets were starting to show corrosion. So, you know, it was a preemptive effort to make sure we put in new hardware, secure the main before, you know, any kind of a major failure, which, you know, would cut the amount of available water into Waikīkī. And we try and avoid main breaks at all costs. It's just wasted water once a main breaks and it's dumping to atmosphere. So it was just a maintenance project. But yes, it is. I believe the 30-inch main is what you see under the grating on the side of the railing. This 16-inch main is sort of tucked up under the bridge itself and held in place with brackets.
Thank you very much.
any other questions for Board of Water Supply? Seeing none. Dominic, thanks for being
All right,
with us
thank you.
tonight. Appreciate it. Next on our agenda, we are trying to appoint a secretary for the neighborhood board. And Catherine?
I'd like to nominate Melissa Feelick for that position.
Like to second that.
Motion and a second. Melissa, are you willing to take on this job? All right. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? By law, we have to do roll call votes. So I'm going to ask our neighborhood assistant to do a roll call vote.
When I call your name, please say Melissa. Oh, okay. Anderson? Oh, can you say into the mic, please?
Melissa.
Okay. Brown?
Melissa.
Lisa?
Melissa, AKA Mrs. Hawaii.
That's not here. Okay. Easily?
Melissa.
Lewis? Okay. Melissa? Okay. Finley? Okay. Hinsky?
Melissa.
Daniel Jacobs?
Melissa.
Ken Jacobs?
Melissa.
Greg?
Melissa.
Howard?
Melissa.
Snyder?
Melissa.
And Worth.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Melissa.
Okay, she is now the secretary for her Waikīkī.
Thank you, everybody. Next on our agenda, we have citizens' concerns not covered in the regular agenda. We are limiting these to 2.5 minutes. If there are concerns, yeah, Carlino.
Thank you. Okay, I may be 20 seconds over, so if you want to stop me, that's fine. My last issue we'll talk about would be the mayor and his action. End the shame is the title of my comments tonight. Trash pickup at 3 a.m. is abusive and shameful. The cause of this shame, Honolulu Disposal Service and West Oahu Aggregate. Shame has the phenomenon of being passed on. Let me illustrate that truth. The owners of these companies do not feel the shame. They have passed on their shame to members of Honolulu City Council who have accepted the shame. Chair Waters and other members of council could either pass a bill or have a contract with refuse haulers to regulate pickup hours. They have chosen to do neither. The actions of our grassroots movements in January 2022 have focused on City Council because this is the main entity that allows the abuse to continue. When there are those who cause the abuse and those who allow the abuse, it is most important to change the consciousness of those who allow the abuse. For abuse ends when there is no one who allows the abuse. Our grassroots organization has told Chair Waters in no uncertain terms that this shame is that of council. We will not accept this shame. We will continue to take action to end the shame. Chair Waters, however, instead of giving the shame back to those who caused the shame, has attempted to pass the shame on to others. He has asserted that the Waikīkī Neighborhood Board, City Administration, Waikīkī Improvement Association, and residents of Waikīkī, among others, do not support regulations on private refuse collection hours. I think he's wrong. However, sure.
It's not. Okay.
You want me to stop? It's up to you.
Oh, no. Oh, no. You can go.
All right. Thank you. Let me make two final quick points. First, our grassroots organization took direct action to let the owner of Honolulu Disposal Service know that we demand to have our dignity respected and that there be no trash pickup at 3 a.m. We are extremely grateful to KITV News for the excellent coverage of our action. The newscast is on the website bedignityandlove.com. Okay, my next 20 seconds will be about the mayor. If you want me to talk about it later, that's fine. You want me to finish?
Go ahead and finish.
Thank you. Thank you. Second, last Friday, Mayor Rick Blangiardi met with the owner of Honolulu Disposal Service and was told that his company could start at 4 p.m. Never happened in the history of Hawaii. However, our position has always been no trash pickup before 6 a.m. Our self-worth is no less than any of the other 200,000 households on this island whose trash pickup begins at 6 a.m. Shame that is mass denied or ignored will continue to grow. End the shame. Thank you, Chip.
Thank you. John?
Hey, guys, we just wrapped up round 2 of Safe and Sound, and a couple of you guys got reports. Bob got one, Greg got one, Catherine got one. Simple version is we're in stable condition as a community, but we have a lot of underlying chronic problems that could blow up at any second. But I wanted to call attention to something that's symbolic of what goes on here. And I've been studying this shit for 3 years. Excuse me. You could beep that out. Studying this subject matter for quite some time. On August 7th, a guy named Ryan Requeno was inside a McDonald's, and police were called. Requeno is our top offender in Waikīkī this year. His 20, up to that point, he had 20 arrests, and that was his 20th arrest. He had 19 arrests. He was banned from Waikīkī 4 times. He poured oil on the police car, kicked the police car, and spit in the police officer's face. So his charges were 2 counts of criminal property damage and harassment, strike, shove for spitting at the cop. He went before the supervising judge, Melanie May, who's in charge of district court, in charge of all the misdemeanors, all the other judges. Despite all of what I just told you, she released Requeno on his own recognizance. Guy doesn't have a home, doesn't have a job, has never appeared in court voluntarily, has 20 recent charges in 11 months, and 2 of them were felonies that he beat. So as long as we have judges like Melanie May making decisions like this, we're in danger as a community. We're in real danger as a community. And misdemeanor judges have wide discretion, and they're appointed by the legislature. And the legislature can appoint people based on their own philosophies. And if this criminal-friendly philosophy continues, where somebody with that kind of egregious record and failure to appear in court can be released on his own recognizance, there's something seriously wrong. Seriously wrong. Melanie May should not be the supervising judge. Everything she did in that decision violated every sentencing guideline, every guideline about releasing people and danger to the community and everything else. That's where the problem is. Thanks, guys.
John, a quick question for you, John. Do you know if this judge is appointed for life or?
No, I think Senator, you might be, Senator Moraki, she's a district court judge. I think they're appointed for like 6 years or 8 years, I don't know, a certain amount of time, and then they have to be reappointed. In other communities, judges are elected, but that opens a can of worms too, where nobody in town knows anything about judges, so that's weird too. But right now I see it as a very criminal-friendly legislature appointing very criminal-friendly judges, and that trickles down to crazy people running around loose in Waikīkī. Senator, do you know the answer? Senator, do you know the answer to that question? Chief Justice? Chief Justice appoints a district judge, I guess.
Okay, thank you. I was
Yep.
confused about that.
They get appointed by somebody.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Sally Manglakmott, and I've been a Waikīkī resident for about 10 years. And I was appalled at the early morning trash pickup as early as 2:45 a.m. So 3 of my sisters have come to visit me in Waikīkī, and they were also subjected to this activity. They were actually saddened that I had to experience this. And for me, I was actually embarrassed by it. So I know there is a resolution that was board approved on July 11, 2023 about the way to early morning trash activity. So I just wonder, what does this board, what role does this board play in something, a matter like this? Thank you.
Catherine?
I'm not sure. Are you the lady who sent us a letter in regard to this? Because I did respond to it. I have asked not Senator, but City Council member Tyler DeSantis, Tam's office, to research any state or city ordinances about garbage pickup. I'm in the middle of reviewing that research. I can't promise you anything, but we are doing something.
Thank you so much. I don't think I'm the person that you were referring to, but thank you for doing that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Any other new subjects for the citizens' concerns? Tim?
Yeah, remember last month, Chair, when we went down to City Hall and talked about road closures, and it passed City Council, and it was scheduled for a second.
Or WebEx. Yeah. Oh. Okay, yeah.
Santos Tam is the chair of the transportation, and he felt it was more important to go to Chicago for the convention than to hold his committee hearing. So hopefully this month it'll be brought up, but I think it passed 9-0. And just one little note on Santos Tam, even though he's chair of the transportation committee and he really only works a couple days a month, he's canceled 6 committees this year. So if you get a chance, maybe give his office a call and tell him to maybe do his job. Thank you.
Any other concerns from community, from the board? Seeing nothing, we will move on. Next, we have our public events. For those of you without an agenda, on Saturday, September 14th, from 1:30 p.m. till midnight, we have the Waikīkī Street Jam. On Saturday, September 21st, 3 p.m. to 1 a.m., Aloha Festival's Ho'olaule'a Street Festival. It's an annual event. And here's something we don't see very often. On Tuesday, September 24th, at 8 to 9 a.m., there will be a helicopter running around in Waikīkī, lifting something up onto the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. So in that area for an hour, I assume it's like the air conditioning they lift up, but they've notified us that they're going to be there. On Saturday, September 28th, 8:30 a.m. to 1, we have the Aloha Festival's Floral Parade, beautiful event. On Saturday, October 12th, from 2 p.m. to midnight, the Waikīkī Fall Festival. On Sunday, October 3rd, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., the More Pink by Susan Coleman event at Kapiolani Park. It's an annual fundraiser to cure cancer. On Saturday, October 19th, 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m., the Honolulu Pride Parade is the First Amendment event. Those are all the events I know of at this time. Next month, we'll cover later in the year. Yes, Mrs. White.
I am Mrs. Hawaii, if you guys didn't know, and I just wanted to encourage you all on Saturday, September 28th, please come out to the Aloha Festival Floral Parade, because I will obviously be in the parade because I'm Mrs. Hawaii, but I'm trying to tie in, I work with the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Hawaii, and so I will have my little sister in the car with me, and then all the other matches from Hawaii will be walking with us from Big Brothers Big Sisters Hawaii. So if you are up early and you'd like to come and cheer them on, it's some of the littles' first time in a parade. So I think that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. It is a wonderful parade. I encourage everyone to attend and enjoy the festivities. We have one request for a liquor license. The hearing is on October 10th at 4 p.m. G. Lion Surnji, I don't know what the heck that is, at 2440 Cohio Avenue. And as I recall, that's a package store. Yeah, it's a package store where you can buy your beer. That's the only one we've got. So if anybody's concerned about that, you can visit the Liquor Commission by mail or in person. Elected officials. Nola is here for the mayor.
Good evening, Chair Finley, members of the Waikīkī Neighborhood Board and residents. It's nice to be here. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm pleased to be able to give a report, sort of highlights of the mayor's been doing the last months, and also the report on items that were raised at the last meeting. So just a couple highlights. I think one of the main things in the newsletter that everyone will, maybe you already know, but on August 24th, the mayor helped launch the Waikīkī Citizen Patrol in conjunction with the police, HPD, the Waikīkī Business Improvement District, the neighborhood board, and other residents. They relaunched the Waikīkī Citizen Patrol, a volunteer-based effort for a safer, cleaner Waikīkī. And if you all want to read more about it, it's in his newsletter, but there's a couple other highlights he wanted to note. That basically we had a cleanup in Chinatown, and there are 30 brand new security cameras in Chinatown, which was, I thought was interesting and hopefully a great, deterrent to crime. Of course, we, celebrated the anniversary, not celebrated, actually, we notated the healing vigil on the anniversary of Maui wildfire fires, and also there's a house on Pensacola Street that the city has finally taken down after many, many years. Finally, on a high note, the Honolulu has been named the most desirable city to live in the United States, which is really wonderful for the city. Just in terms of what responses from last month, one of the concerns brought up were cracked sidewalks. So Chair Finley, you reported sidewalks with cracks and holes from Alawai to Kuhio, specifically Royal Hawaiian Avenue from Aloha Drive to Kuhio on the Diamond Head side, and Seaside Avenue from Alawai to Kuhio on both sides with sidewalks so narrow that people have to often walk in the mud to use the sidewalk. So I guess there were actually two responses to that inquiry. The first one is just the repairs. The repairs, the cracks and holes, were referred to Department of Planning and Permitting for inspection and appropriate action. So that's the repair. Now, if the sidewalks need to play, the sidewalks are so old that they were constructed a long time ago when the standards allowed such narrow sidewalks. So a new wider sidewalk would need to comply with the ADA requirements and typically be implemented as part of a capital improvement project, which would require funding and it's a little bit of a longer term project.
Somebody actually came by and painted yellow arrows all over the sidewalk, but with the rain, the arrows are gone. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe we can make a note. But I'm sure there's on their list, but we can sort of get confirmation, but I'm sure that's just a temporary. But I would imagine it's on their list for repairs. Okay, the drinking fountain repair, again on Alawai Boulevard, one of those residents said this had been, actually it's been fixed once or twice, but it unfortunately gets vandalized. Alawai between Lures and Kaiolu Street. So the resident claims the fountain has been down for several months. And so that was within the last month, actually after the last neighborhood board meeting. So DFM and requested assistance from DPR, Parks and Recreation, and they were able to repair it right away on August 22nd. So hopefully that will be okay for a while. Unfortunately, it does tend to get damaged. Okay, we did have a concern about the pigeons. Someone asked if it's possible for the rising pigeon population on Oahu to be added to the feral chicken discussion. The resident said that pigeons in Waikīkī are large, aggressive, and a nuisance. And she had witnessed multiple pigeons land on restaurant tables and to eat people's food. So the response from CSD is that basically they're sorry that this is a concern. Of course, they realize that, but they are saying that the pigeon control falls under jurisdiction of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, which is a state of Hawaii department. And the current contract that the city has for feral chicken mitigation does not cover pigeon control. Unfortunately, the current contract is only for feral chicken abatement, and we're not authorized to control pigeons. But they gave a couple possible solutions that are in use by the city and county of Honolulu and the state. They're saying exclusion services, if you get a service, property owners can install nets, spikes, and other barriers to physically prevent pigeons trapping. They can work with a contractor directly to offer pigeon trapping, which has been effective in various environments. So this is going to have to be done by the property owner. Repellents, utilizing repellent devices that are specifically designed to deter pigeons, especially in areas like outdoor dining spaces. These are site-specific issues, and property owners would be, have to be approached to determine the best approach for them. So that was the response from CSD. The last issue was the food truck fumes. One of the residents asked for a food truck to be relocated away from residential buildings as food trucks cooking fumes been entering the apartment complex located on 2428 Koa Avenue. And the food truck parks on the lot on Ulunio Street between Prince Edwards and Koa. And I guess there's concern about the long-term exposure, breathing in cooking fumes. So the DPP gave a lot of information. I'm not sure how much we need to know about the food truck. And it's called K Street Foods, and it's parks at Ulunio Avenue, number 138 Ulunio. And they're saying that the lot is zoned as resort mixed use. Eating establishments are permitted. A notice of violation was issued to K Street Foods on February 1, 2024 for operating in Waikīkī without a Waikīkī Special District permit. Currently, the food truck is in the process of obtaining a special district permit with the Department of Planning and Permitting. There is no building code that would regulate outdoor environment cooking fumes, unfortunately. However, they feel that the best approach would be to contact the Department of Health sanitation branch regarding the cooking fumes. That would be the only approach that we could think of to regulate outdoor cooking. So the neighborhood boards also chimed in and they suggested that the issue be represented, referred to Senator Lori Waikīkī and suggested that the contact be made with DOH Food Safety Branch. And they give a phone number 808-586-8000 and also an email. So perhaps we can send that to Chair Finley and it can be posted. That's it. Thank you very much. We can take
Questions for the mayor? Catherine?
Thank you for your report. I'm getting a lot of talk time tonight. I haven't been around for a while. Former Mayor Caldwell installed cameras in Waikīkī, and nothing ever came of it. I'm wondering who is going to monitor the cameras in Chinatown and who's going to call out whatever responses are going to be needed for them?
I'm not sure, but of course, we can get back to you about that, but I do think I think it might be a.
Hi, I think maybe you were here when Carlino was speaking. I think you came in at the tail end.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. This is the 3 a.m., 2 a.m. trash pickup. I'm just trying to get a update as to where we are. This issue's been kicking around for a long time. I know Carlino had come to the board. One of the board had gone on record supporting his position to answer the question of the woman back there. And then the issue kind of went on the side. I know Senator Moriwaki trying to convene a group. And then I didn't see Carlino for a couple of months. Now he's back. I saw a TV was covering. He says that the mayor spoke to him and they're trying to do something. So I'm just trying to get an idea. Do you know where we're at? Are we making any progress on this? Or is it a step forward, a step back? Is the issue still, is it front and center? I'm just trying to get an understanding as to, is that true that the mayor did speak to him and promised he'd try to do something? I mean, so anyway, what can you tell us? That would
Okay.
help.
Sure.
But you're going to come back next month. you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as the cameras in Waikīkī, they're being monitored by the Waikīkī Special Business Association. They have a nighttime guy who sits there and watches the cameras at the substation and reports things to the duty sergeant. That is going to change because they're installing a lot more cameras. And I believe it's going to be pushed over to the police department themselves. So I don't know if that's what they're going to do downtown, out of our area. So it's always nice to have a camera taking pictures of me falling down places. But anyway, yes, go ahead.
Hi, Nola. I was on the Department of Transportation Services website the other day, just curious about the timing of Kuhila Avenue's bus lane configuration, restriping, paving, and it still says that that's going to happen in Q4 of this year. So I'm curious if we can get an update on when that might be scheduled. We have a lot of road closures coming up in October. So when Kalakaua is closed, if Kuhila's closed partially, it's going to be a mess. So it'd be nice to know.
Okay. So is that a recent update, the Q4?
I read that on the website last week. Yeah. So I don't think it was an update. I think it was just status quo.
Okay.
Yeah, you can talk to Renee down at Department of Transportation. She had a meeting online the other day. I didn't get to attend that. And Rick Eggett, who did, is off to a family emergency tonight. So he was going to report back to us. but it's evidently only going to be on one side of Cohio now, while they test it. And there'll be a lot of red paint everywhere, so I don't know the dates. I didn't get those. But maybe you can get to her and she can get back and let us know what's happening.
Okay, will do.
Right. Sorry.
Just a quick one. Hi, Nola, how are you? We have a property, I brought this up once before, but I'm going to bring it up with you. We have a property on the street that I live on, Keone Ana Street. So it's right next to our condominium building, which is a high rise. And it used to be 2 single-family properties. And we didn't receive, or at least I didn't receive notice of what was going on, but they tore down the 2 single-family homes. They erected a giant, well, first they erected a giant fence, wooden fence that goes around, tore down the homes. I looked, I didn't see any permit even for the fence, which I think would be required, but there is some permit that was eventually filed for at least one of the addresses. It's a dual address. And the concern I have is there's massive graffiti, massive, like it's just a wall of graffiti, and it's quite large. And it's been like that for quite a while, and nobody's addressing anything. I raised the concern before. I guess I need to file some kind of maybe report, but I would ask you, because what I know about the project from researching a little bit is that it's going to be a mid-rise or maybe lower, I don't know, 6 or 7 story, either apartment building or possibly condominiums, I'm not sure. And I'm just concerned that whoever's developing it isn't a good neighbor. And I would like to get the graffiti cleaned up.
Do you have an address?
I'll give you our address. It's directly next to it. So the address of our building is 430 Keone Ana Street. And I apologize, I don't have it off the top of my head, but it would be directly next to us, going towards the Alawai waterway, Alawai Boulevard on our side.
I'll go fast here. We've had so many positive improvements along the public right of way and on properties on Coquille Avenue over the past 5 or 10 years. It's really lovely, but there are a couple properties that still remain closed, dilapidated, and look really sad in our community. They degrade us as an A grade Waikīkī, and it's time for us to know what's the status of these properties. I don't have their addresses. I can supply those, but I think we might know that one is the complex almost at Seaside, which involves several buildings between along near and across from the International Marketplace. Then we have an old Whalers General Store at Lures Corner. And just down the street from that, a huge barricaded lot area that I believe was a Starbucks 10 or 12 years ago. But these properties just remain in this state, and it's really sad to see that condition that's presented to us as residents and to our tourist guests. I can get exact addresses for those, but it'd be nice to know from DPP or somebody's like, what's going on? Yeah.
Actually, the one on Cohio by Seaside, the owner of the property is attempting to get a building permit to demo the buildings and just put grass there. But he's been unable to get the building permit to demo until he gets the building permit to build. So he's going in a big circle, but they do control the graffiti on that building. They're daily out there painting that one. That's owned by ABC Stores, for your information. The other one, I have no idea, but I keep talking to them about that property. And it's really frustrating that you want to get rid of those buildings, get the eyesore out of there, but you can't until you get at that long line at planning and permitting. Yes, Daniel.
I think that property address is 2260 Kuhio because it's the property that I asked about a long time ago, and then we got it wrong. There was a number wrong. So we've asked about it before, and you just recollect. But I had 2 things. The first is, I think you had reported that Department of Transportation had said that they're okay with the crosswalks for pedestrians not being automatic, that they wanted you, or that they're okay with the requirement that you have to push the button, and that's particularly crossing the Alawai. I would really like to encourage mayor to have Department of Transportation, or maybe even have Department of Transportation come to talk about this. But I think every stopwalk or crosswalk in Waikīkī should be automatic, allowing the pedestrian light to come on and people can cross the road. Because if you don't push it, you'll never get to cross the road. And, you know, we had discussions earlier about jaywalking. I think a lot of that happens because it is so difficult to cross the road in Waikīkī. And really the focus of Waikīkī, in my opinion, is commuting traffic and not pedestrians. And I think that needs to be switched. So I'd like a little bit more information on what we can do to make it more pedestrian friendly by making that. The other one is the Citizens Walk. And for Senator, a great event. I've got my yellow T-shirt, and I do look forward to patrolling with fellow neighbors. But I want to be clear that I don't think that should be a substitute for police actually patrolling the street. And I think this board has been asking for that for a very, very long time. And so I would hope the mayor's office and senator can really take what this board has been saying for so long and start encouraging the police to patrol the streets. And we've all heard that they're understaffed. But what concerned me about the actual event is there was no less than a dozen officers there. And Lieutenant Areta, probably pronounced his very much, he told me that a lot of them were being paid in overtime to be there. And so, you know, to have a dozen or so officers be present when 3 or 4 of them could have worked, and to have all the other officers being paid overtime, I'd rather pay them overtime to do what this board has been asking for so long. That's patrol the streets and enforce the muffler violations. So the perception of the police is still very poor in my mind. And I think if looking forward to going patrolling with other citizens, I would hope that when we do patrol, we run into the police that are also patrolling the streets independently of us. And so again, I would encourage the senator and the mayor's office to really encourage the police department, especially with a new major coming in, especially with, you know, I was pretty impressed with that guy tonight. We just need to have a conversation, and we need to know why they're not patrolling, and we need to know what we can do to make sure that they do patrol, because that's what we want. And if you're talking about vandalism of various things, I just don't think vandalism and graffiti would happen as much if you're aware that within moments, you're more than likely going to see an officer on the street. So let's prevent things by putting officers in public, present, our streets. They should know our names. I should be able to walk outside, see my neighborhood officer and know his name. Say good morning. They should know our name. That's the world that I'm looking for. Again, I'd really appreciate the citizens patrol, but it should not substitute police patrol. Thank you.
Daniel, one quick one. I also hate the buttons that don't work and the lack of signs. I spoke to the Department of Transportation about it. And evidently there's a federal program that they're looking for funding to replace all of those things with more modern, up-to-date stuff. I don't know why you would even want that, but that is one of the stumbling blocks over there.
I wouldn't think you'd have to update anything just to make it automatic. I think that's just a switch, I would hope.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you made it automatic, you wouldn't even need the button because it wouldn't be vandalized. You know, it'd just be automatic.
That's the argument I made too, but I failed on that one. Yeah.
Most often our reasonable arguments here at the neighborhood board fail with the government entities that we're talking to, but that's why we're here, and we work hard to try to convince them otherwise.
Jacob, you got a quick one for us?
I do. Just pleased by a couple announcements over the past couple weeks the city made. The first one being money and effort being dedicated to rehabilitating the Waikīkī War Memorial Natatorium. That's awesome. That's really part of our heritage. We just lost the Falls of Clyde this year because of disrepair, and I'm glad that we're making an attempt to at least save part of our heritage here in the city. And then also, I'm thrilled that the city is pushing ahead with the digital driver's licenses on our phone. It is, you know, kudos to the city for really driving that. And I hope that we can also get the Holo card on our phones too for digital payments. So thank you for doing that and keep up that good work.
Thank you. I do think they're working on the Holo card. Oh, do you have it? Oh. Okay, I believe they're working on it, an app for that.
Great. That's awesome.
Just a very quick comment. I just wanted to make a comment on the Citizen Patrol, which I started to join, well, I joined a long time ago, and I have to admit I've been very busy the last year and a half. I've only been able to participate occasionally, but I don't think it's a replacement. I think it's just a good thing to have. I mean, I've met some amazing officers and engaged with people that I've met, actually people that are on this board that I've met before they were on the board. So I think it's a very good thing that you're doing. And I think the way it's being re-rolled out is good, because I do agree there were maybe too many, like there was, a couple the same night in like close proximity. So have them a little more spread out. And I don't think it's a replacement. I just think it's an enhancement to what HPD is doing. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
Anything else for the mayor? Yes, ma'am.
Last month, I didn't bring it up to the mayor, but I did bring it up as a general comment about all of the water features along Kalakaua that are not working. And it would be wonderful for the tourists as well as us for all of those features to be working again. A suggestion about the trash pickup thing. I think it's something that it's very difficult to come up with a time when it's going to suit everybody to have their trash picked up. And also for people to get to work and kids to school and everything like that. And maybe that's something where the people that are really adamant about this, maybe they could get together with city planning and with the traffic control people and sit down and maybe try to come up with a solution for it. Because just complaining about it doesn't do anything, but you really need to get in there and try and work at that. Just please let me finish myself. Thank you. And then I did participate in the Citizens Patrol, and it was very nice to get to know the officers and some of my neighbors and fellow people. But I really am not quite clear on what we're really supposed to be doing. So a little bit of clarity for me would be great as far as that goes. And then last but not least, last month, AT&T did a presentation about these new things that they're going to put up for their Wi-Fi. And they were stating about what it was going to look like and what they were doing. And I pointed out that they've already done that at the corner of Cleghorn and Lilia Kalani, and it's nothing like what the lady was talking about now. I believe she was a deer in the headlights because I think she was just given a presentation and asked to present it. But what she was told to present and what they actually look like are really far away, and they are not putting up new poles. It's put on a pole that belongs to Hawaiian Electric. The pole was already leaning, and now they put this contraption on it. So those are kind of things that you really need to be looking into what they're really doing. Thank you.
Our grassroots movement has been on this issue of trash pickup for 2.5 years. The problem is for Waikīkī, and I think this board may know it, there's only 4 workers for Honolulu Disposal Service. That was told to me by a worker of Honolulu Disposal Service. They have 150 to 180 clients. Cannot have every condominium have trash pickup at 6 a.m. when you only have 4 workers and you have 150 to 180 clients. Second point is, I just learned this last week. 311, there was a Honolulu Disposal trash pickup vehicle on Kuhio Avenue near Kapahulu, 311. I went outside and with one dumpster moving, one driver moving the dumpster, and then there's another driver that came later on to empty it. But I walked in to a hotel and I talked to a security driver, and he told me that he has a friend who works for Honolulu Disposal Service, and his friend works from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. That's 6 hours. This friend only works 3 days a week. That's less than 20 hours, doesn't need to have to pay any benefits regards to being less than 20 hours. One final point. From that, just that one person and the other person, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., they wreak havoc on thousands of people in our community. That's why I'm asking this board, take a strong stand. Let's end this shame. It's gone on far too long. Let city council know that they can pass a law, that they can either write a contract with the trash haulers. They have that authority and the moral responsibility. Please, we need your help.
I see Sarah on WebEx. Sarah, are you there?
Aloha from Molokai. I actually attended the relaunch also. And I have to say there's only 4 Waikīkī neighborhood board members there. And I would like to see in the future, you know, when HBD, we always ask HBD for things, but when they ask for our support, hopefully in the future we can provide that. And I mean, Daniel was there and he's the hardest on HBD and I'm the hardest on, you know, Egged's franchises, but we both showed up and it was a great event. And the second thing about the AT&T thing, I actually called AT&T and I spoke also with the city and county facility maintenance. And what I discovered was it's not going to be just AT&T. They already have a master agreement, leasing agreement, where it's AT&T, Spectrum. There's another, like 2 others, where they're going to put theirs also on that telephone pole. So hopefully, hey, Anson, I'm not sure. AT&T said they were going to send the pictures and packets today, so it would be in the Google Drive. Do you know if that happened?
No, not yet. I checked my
Okay.
email, but yeah.
Oh, thanks for checking. But I think that's one thing we really need to look at because Waikīkī is a special district, so we have special rules that apply to limit things that obstruct the view, the things that decrease the beauty of Waikīkī. And having a telephone pole with 4 or 5 of these transponder, I don't know what it's going to look like, unfortunately, because we still don't have the picture. I think that's an issue we should keep track of. Thank you.
Okay, we have beat up the mayor's representative.
Sorry, Nola.
Anything else? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Nola. We'll see you next month. Next, we have Council Chair Waters. I believe he has a representative online.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Cepeda, for those of you who don't know me. I'm here tonight on behalf of Chair Waters. I do apologize that we are not there in person. Keola had every intention of attending in person this evening, but he had a last minute emergency and was unable to. And Chair is preparing to travel to Japan tomorrow for a sister city event. So I'm here tonight to give a short update on a few items that were discussed last month regarding the 1615 city acquired property at 1615 Alawai Boulevard. The first thing we wanted to mention was that the landscaping services were finally completed just this past week, possibly even Saturday. That was something that we had been anticipating for quite a long time, so we're happy that that was finally completed. We're also happy to hear that the contract with the landscaping contractor also includes maintenance services every 3 months going forward for a period of 1 year. So they will continue to address any overgrowth and keep the property clear of all the brush and grasses that have been a problem for the community. And then we are also waiting very patiently on the outcome of the feasibility study to determine whether or not the best course of action is to renovate the current structure or to demolish and rebuild. We do have a response back from Department of Land Management responsible for the property to a couple of questions that were raised during last month's meeting. With respect to the request for proposals process, the department stated, thank you for the inquiry. Department of Land Management is in the initial stages of drafting the RFP, which marks the beginning of the city's process to select qualified individuals or firms to enter into a development contract. Once the RFP is published, the city will be accepting proposals from qualified individuals and firms that meet the outlined criteria. For further details and to access the RFP once available, we have a website here, and we're happy to provide that to anyone who's interested. I'll send this report on to the board following the meeting as well. And then the second question was in regard to the cost to the city for the new security on site. That's their daily 7 days a week from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The cost is $5,880. And they added that this service is in place to ensure peace of mind and enhance the security and safety of the property. Then there was an expression by, I believe, Board Member Hensky of gratitude to the city for all of the efforts made to fence and secure the property. And DLM just wanted to mahalo you in return. And we look forward to more information. And absolutely, DLM is aware and will be including the neighborhood board in all of the future discussions and updates as we move forward on this project. I do have a very quick update regarding the 1701 Alawai Boulevard property. It's the one story that had been a bit of an eyesore for quite a long time. Quite a long time, covered with graffiti. We had worked closely with the property's owner's agent as well as the WBID. And we're happy to report that that graffiti was finally covered up at the end of August. And they have also hired a monthly contract service, maintenance service to not only take care of the property, but to provide monthly graffiti removal services as well. So hopefully we can stay on top of that if it returns. And another one, very similar, 159 Ka'iulani Avenue at the corner of Kuhio Avenue has also been a source of community concern for quite a long time. It is also covered with graffiti. It has boarded up windows. That one, we've also been in discussions with the property owner on. We also did work with WBID on that one, who very graciously offered to paint over the graffiti and to take care of that. Unfortunately, they were making way with the property owner agent until for some reason there was a last minute change of heart and the property owner had preferred to take care of it themselves. So we are still in the process of working with them on that. The DPP has sent a graffiti removal letter to the property owner. And I know there's been some comments tonight regarding graffiti, and I just wanted to add that currently it is considered a crime of vandalism. And so because of that, there's no mechanism for the DPP to actually require removal of graffiti. They do regularly send what they refer to as graffiti letters to property owners asking for their compliance and their cooperation in removing the graffiti as quickly as possible. But again, it's not something that we can currently require by law. We recognize that this is an issue that comes up again and again, more so in recent years. And so that is something that our team is looking at more closely to see what we can do to change that and actually require removal of graffitis by the property owners within some sort of reasonable time frame. And with that, I will take any questions if I can. And if I can't answer them now, I'll be happy to take them back for next month.
Board members, questions? Go.
Thank you for that update. The last thing you said is the most concerning. So I'm surprised. There's always a blight regulation or some kind of rule regarding graffiti. At least, I lived in California, at least where I come from in California, when I lived in Boston. And I'm surprised that in Hawaii, Honolulu, we don't have that. You indicated it's not, it's a crime, but it can't be regulated. So when I lived in San Jose, California, if there was graffiti, you just would call, and then they consider it a blight, and then the owner of the property has so many days to get it rectified, or they get a notice of violation and they get a fine. Is it not like that here? It sounded like you said it's not.
Yeah, correct. It's not. And when I first started working on these graffiti issues, I was also surprised. We were all surprised to learn that it's not currently illegal. And again, it is considered a crime of vandalism for the individual or individuals who actually did the graffiti. But because it's a crime against the property owner, it's not currently required to be remediated by the property owner. And we agree with you. It's concerning and it's a little bit shocking. And there are other jurisdictions that have similar ordinances in place that we are looking to do here as well. The DPP does have some enforcement authority when it comes to dilapidated properties in disrepair. They do have some ability to issue violations for other types of conditions: overgrown properties covered with litter, roofs falling down, those types of things. But specifically for the graffiti, we don't have it. And so again, that's something that our team is currently looking into. How do we change that? How do we fix that? Because we do agree that that's a problem.
Okay, and just one follow-up as a solution. So I have a lot of legislation I have to draft going in for the 2025 session for various things. And is this something that I would draft a legislation proposal for through the state, through our legislators, or is this something that I would do through city council if I had a proposal through city council? Which way would be the best to try to get the laws on the books changed?
Thank you. Yeah, this particular one would go through city council.
Okay, and could you elaborate? Is there a process where I could provide a request, or would I just bring it to your attention or through Council Chair Waters' attention, or is there a draft proposal where a citizen can do something?
Sure. We're always happy to work with community on suggestions and requests for legislation. You can email it to me or to Chair. I'm happy to take your contact information and reach out to you, but that's definitely something we'd be happy to work with you on.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Sarah, are you there?
Hello. So actually, to address what a citizen had mentioned earlier about their concerns about the water fountains down by Cohio Beach, I was informed that the fountains are so old now that they no longer make those parts. So now they're faced with, what are we going to do with these waterfalls that we can't find parts to? And I know that Tommy Waters before had stated that city and county had hired an art person who was going to come up with ideas of how to, like, what artwork to place and so forth. I was wondering if you had any updates about that. Maybe you're not the right person to ask. Sorry. I'm like, where is Tommy? He just got a huge raise. He's like never around anymore. But actually I had an idea that perhaps we can change it into like using glass or so forth, making it like a lava flow. Since Tommy Waters had stated they want to move away from using water features, which makes sense because we're trying to conserve water. So I guess for maybe next month, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. And I will take that back and get an update. I know it is something that the Department of Parks has said exactly what you said. They're not looking to repair those. The parts aren't available. They're often destroyed, vandalized. It's just not a conducive environment for it in those locations. And as you stated, it is something that Chair Waters supports as some opportunity to create or turn it into a piece of artwork rather than having it just sit there as a hardscape as they're referring to it. So yeah, no, he's definitely interested in that, and I will take that back and get an update on the progress there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carlito.
It's my understanding that Chair Waters has not been here for several months for a meeting. Is that correct? We don't. Amanda, I have here an email from you to a Waikīkī resident, Margarita Abramovich, courageous woman who spoke up about the way too early morning trash pickup at 3 a.m. She described her experience as torture. Now, in your email to her, you say this: we also note specifically that regulations on private refuse collection hours are currently not supported by the city administration, Waikīkī Neighborhood Board, among others. Chair Waters, and also yourself, has the resolution of July 11th, 2023, which specifically states no trash pickup before 6 a.m. I wrote to Chair Waters, never received a response. I would say if you cannot provide documentation that any one member of this board would support trash pickup at 3 a.m., then an apology is needed for this board by you and by Chair Waters. Show us the documentation that any member of this board doesn't support regulation on private refuse collection hours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giampolo, for your comments tonight, as well as
You're
the
welcome.
many years of discussions we've had together on this issue. And I will state for the record that I do apologize. I misspoke specifically in reference to the Waikīkī Neighborhood Board. You are correct that a resolution was taken up and passed by the board. So I stand corrected for the record. And again, I apologize for that. For the other agencies mentioned and organizations, what I will say again is that I don't think it's helpful to argue about who specifically supports it and doesn't support it. The fact of the matter is if we had the support that we needed, both at the city council and the administration and our Waikīkī stakeholders, as well as our residents and AOAOs, we would not still be talking about this issue. The bill would have been passed already. So again, I know that you in your own efforts have learned the same thing. We just haven't reached that level of support that we need. We don't have viable solutions. We've taken up this issue at City Council. Excuse me, please let me finish. We've taken up this issue at City Council a number of times. It hasn't passed. We're at the point now where we are working with the managing director in the mayor's office to see what other solutions we might be able to come up with. As you stated, the mayor has been in direct discussions with private haulers, and we haven't reached an agreement yet on what that might look like. A number of issues have been raised this evening, a number of concerns that are very important to the conversation: traffic safety, impacts to not only private collections, but to city collections, impacts to how much you pay for your private collection. Again, as you stated, private haulers don't have the drivers that they need. Neither do we at the city level. We're also experiencing a very serious issue with supply chain at the city level. If we can't take care of our own trash adequately, how are we supposed to help private refuse trucks come up with extra drivers and extra routes? Right now, it's just not feasible. We're all dealing with the same things. And unfortunately, like I mentioned, it's an even more challenging issue at this point in time when we're facing a very serious lack of CDL drivers and the supply chain issues. We would like very much to give you exactly what you and so many folks have been asking for. We don't have the support and we don't have a viable solution for it at this time.
Okay, thank you so much for that response. So what you're saying is the resolution was not sufficient enough.
That is
And that-
correct.
And that this board is not giving our community sufficient support. Tell me
That is
exactly
not what I
what you
said.
want from this board in order for you to understand the trash pickup must end at 3 a.m. We expect and want no trash pickup before 6 a.m. This 2.5 years that Chair Waters has been on this issue. He's never called Honolulu disposal owner. He's never called the West Oahu aggregate owner. He's never taken an action to end the abuse. And it is abuse and
That is
torture.
not correct.
What do you
Those
want from this
statements are
board
incorrect.
specifically? So do you understand this board is behind
Mr.
the community?
Giampolo, we understand that the board
Point of order.
supports.
Please sit down, sir.
Thank you.
Let
If
me
all
give
we
this
needed
back.
was the board support to pass a law, it would have been done already.
Thank you. Anything else for Council Chair Waters?
I just want to speak to the issue again of the waterfalls, and I heard you say that they're outdated, antiquated, or whatever. I'm not a plumber, but I don't think that you have to replace pumps and water lines with the same things that was there 20 years ago. So I would beg to differ, and I know that the tourists take many, many, many pictures in front of the waterfall and some of the other fountains along the way. So I do take, take that as a negative comment that I don't think is founded. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not a plumber, nor am I an engineer, but I certainly understand where you're coming from. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. I hope the chair has a safe trip to Japan.
Thank you very much.
Next, Senator Moriwaki. Senator? Upper minutes.
Chair, members, my report is, I think, with you. Basically, we are in interim, so I'm just reporting what's happening with Suicide Prevention Month. As Daniel mentioned, we had a relaunch of the Citizen Patrol. And again, to reiterate what Greg says, it's not a replacement. We're really looking at Citizen Patrols as a way of being the eyes and ears when the officers aren't around. And we have had citizen patrols in other areas like Kaka'ako, and members continue to walk, and it is a deterrent for the businesses, especially in residents. So residents get to speak to each other, get to speak with the police officers. They get to know each other so that you can actually report problems in the community as you see them. If you see graffiti, we have been reporting it to the police. And in fact, Department of Facilities Management does schedule cleanups as we look at that. So it's not really a replacement, but it really is, as Greg says, an enhancement. And we really appreciate anybody coming out and being part of the solution with the police, because they really try hard to do their job. Our gun buyback event was successful. I do want to mention Megan Stats is the new boating and ocean recreation administrator. And that's the other side of the special improvement districts, the LOI Small Boat Harbor. And Ed Underwood retired. I know that he was loved by everyone. So Megan is a real positive, I think, administrator, and she will be following up on a lot of problems, I think, in the Boat Harbor. So that is what I have for tonight. And if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Questions for the senator? Yeah, great.
Maybe I should have said this earlier to Amanda, but maybe you can provide some. No, it's something that I think impacts what you'd be interested to. So I just read today, just before coming to the meeting, the city's top emergency management official is stepping down. So Hiro, let me see if I can say this, Hiro Toya has taken a job with FEMA in Oakland.
What department are you talking?
Oh, top emergency management official, I'm sorry. Yeah, it would be,
IEMA?
I think it's with the city, but I apologize.
It's
I
City
don't know if-
Department of Emergency Management, City Department of Emergency Management.
Thank you. I thought it was city. So I don't know if you have any thoughts to that too, or if there's any concerns with the change that we're going to have and why that's happening.
No, not really. I think IEMA, the emergency disaster management, IEMA management administration is there's an umbrella, which is the state. And then each county has its own. So the city has its own organization. So I'm not quite familiar with what they're doing.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, I know it's a little bit, there's different roadhouses here, but obviously it's going to impact
Well, each county has its own organization. So, for example, the problems that the disaster, the fires, it was a Maui County problem. The state will help, but it really is management by each county. Each one has its own organization for disaster management.
Okay, thank you.
You can go to the basement of the Fosse building and volunteer. They'll give you a backpack and give you training. It's a good place. Anything else for the senator? Sarah is online.
Hi, Senator Morawaki. I was wondering, I sent an email earlier this week. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to read it yet, but now that you mentioned that you are in an interim period, now it seems like a great time to have hearings and to review certain departments, because I'm not sure if anyone else read the Civil Beat article about how we have children in foster care where they're being murdered, quite frankly, and the fact that rape reports are missing and there's no accounting for visits. I'm curious to know, are they underfunded, understaffed? Like what's going on? So hopefully, when you do read the email, you could hopefully have a hearing because as a guardian ad litem, I volunteered for years. These children are voiceless, and so we need to step up. We need to protect them. And thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't know if you're asking for any follow-up, but I'm not sure what your question was.
Oh, sorry. So in the email, actually, the Civil Beat pointed out that the legislature, one of their duties is oversight. And so they can hold hearings. I know that Psyche's held hearings for like the auditor when the House was audited. So the legislature can form committees to investigate, hey, what's going on? What laws do we need to put in place? Like, where are we failing? Like, where are the cracks in the system? So hopefully that this is an interim period and you do have some downtime before the next session starts. When you read the email, you'll understand it better. And there's a link to that news article. And I believe I asked Anson to upload it to the Google Drive because it is, and I actually just read this morning about another child, 2-year-old. She had a broken femur. You know how difficult it is to break a femur? So obviously we have our system, we have some cracks we need to deal with. So hopefully you'll be able to spearhead that since you've been really great about. Sorry, sorry.
Yeah,
problem
no,
solving.
I think it's tragic, and I think that we do have hearings, we do have briefings on problems that come up. So we are an interim, but we still, the committee chair, for example, would probably be Health and Human Services, would call a briefing and ask the department to provide information on what they're doing about the problem. So that can be done.
Stephanie, you have something?
I do. Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, Senator. Switching gears entirely, it is my understanding that members of the Hawaii Department of Agriculture and some members of the legislature recently took a trip to New Zealand to learn about biosecurity issues. And I was wondering if you were aware of that trip or had spoken with anyone who participated in that trip, specifically with respect to coconut rhinoceros beetle and actions to protect the coconut and other palm trees in Waikīkī that maybe could be undertaken this legislative session with the increase of that pest.
I was on that trip. I was part of the Ways and Means Committee that was on the trip with the Department of Agriculture as well as the Department of Transportation. We went to New Zealand because it is the world's best biosecurity system. How we can learn from them, and they have a really secure system. They have the importers having to inspect their goods before they come onto the border. At the border, they inspect, and also surveillance once the products are into the community, into the state, or in that case, a country. We learned quite a bit. We're going to follow up on that. What they do have is a big regulatory framework so that it makes biosecurity everyone's business, right? And so in Hawaii, with the coconut rhinoceros beetle, the red ants, the fire ants, each one is a separate problem. It's not coordinated. We've got labs in Department of Health, in the university, at the Department of Ag, and they're not coordinated at all. So they're working in silos. And what we're finding out is we really need to coordinate. And we're going to look at that in the coming year.
Oh,
But yes.
I'm very delighted to hear that, and particularly with respect to species once they have arrived, because HDOA does have, a rigorous inspection program, but then once something is here, even though there are the MOUs and interagency cooperation, there is no enforcement within the state other than some agricultural commodities moving into our island. So I'm very excited to see how all this new information will play out in the session. Thank you, Senator.
So one of the ideas when you talk about enforcement is Department of Law Enforcement has the whole fireworks that they stopped at the border at our harbors and airports. So we're looking at having them also included so that we can have all these laws, but it's the enforcement. So looking at a system where we actually can stop it. What New Zealand does is stop it before and at, and also then there's less to do in containment once they're in the country. So stay tuned in because we are looking at some kind of regulatory framework on biosecurity.
That's wonderful, Senator. Thank you.
Anything else for the senator? See nothing. Thank you. Representative Tam? We'll see you again in a few minutes, I hope.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. You have my newsletters on your table. Couple reports that I'm working on. We talked about 1701, the graffiti building. That report was given by Councilmember Waters' office, and I'm grateful for Amanda for working hard on that, to clean up that graffiti and to make sure that, it's no longer an eyesore and it's fenced off. We did get several complaints regarding homelessness on Kapu'u Library. And what we are working on now is to try to make that place more lively and active by incorporating the Ala Waikīkī Wall project so that, you know, they can carry out their mission of cleaning up while making that place more active so that it deters the homeless from camping out in that area and trashing it. I think that's the end of my report. I'll open up any questions.
Wow. Yes.
Oh my God. What movie? I'm not sure. I think you gotta check with the organizers.
I'm sorry, Rick isn't here tonight to tell us that.
Oh, yeah.
He had a family crisis.
Sorry about that. I'll
But,
talk to you later about it.
Should appear on Facebook as well. Any other questions for the representative? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is our governor's representative here? Welcome back. Ron Hunter.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me as your liaison to the governor's office. Just a couple of short things. I relayed the call for representation regarding the Waikīkī restoration to DBET and was asked to convey back to you, to the chair and to this board that they will come and meet with you and offer that opportunity. And we may have to offer them a date, whether it's the next board meeting. Yeah. I also relayed the concern or the call to differentiate policy responses related to affordable housing from those that relate to addiction and mental health and street crime. Heard that very strongly. So that's been taken back to the governor's team. I think those were the two major things I wanted to report back on. The policing is probably more another jurisdiction, but I did share some of the concerns about foot and bike patrols and having more of that representation on the street as well.
Questions for the governor? Greg, you've had your questions tonight. Go ahead.
They're good ones, aren't they? So I do recall I believe I had asked a question. It was a couple of days before I was headed into a surgery, but I believe I asked a question regarding, because it was via Zoom, regarding the insurance crisis, condo issues, our maintenance fees that are going up. I live in a condo, and deferred maintenance, but the emergency proclamation and other aspects regarding that. So I was hoping you'd have some feedback, because when you have an emergency proclamation, you have an emergency that goes with it, which is what we have. And I just saw something in the news that said, which I was stunned at actually, that our insurance commissioner may leave to go to do something under the Biden administration, and that Representative Psyche might actually take the position or role as the insurance commissioner. That was in a Civil Beat story. So do you have any comments on that? And also, did you feedback or
Yes.
get feedback on my concerns with the governor?
Shared it out. Haven't yet had feedback. You had called, I think, for a special session. Is that what I heard?
Correct. I had emailed, I think, all of the legislators asking for a special session, and others had. And then I also contacted the governor's office, and I've had no real follow-up. But, I see there's some progress, but emergency proclamations are statements, but real progress and real solutions are substantive, and I don't see anything happening.
I'll raise it again. I did bring it up. I meant to mention it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anything else for the governor's representative? I don't see anything. Well, thank you for being with us all night. Thank goodness. Agate is at a family emergency. He won't be with us tonight. I'd like to introduce our candidates for the election coming up for senator, for Senate and House. I'll start with Adrian Tam, who is running to fill his office at the state capitol. Adrian?
Good to be back on the mic after a while. Again, my name is Adrian Tam. I'm just a neighbor that was born and raised here in Honolulu, Hawaii. Graduated from our public schools, Kalani High School, if you're curious, because we are all about our high schools here. And I came back to work for my mom's small business, but I decided to take a faithful internship and a session hire job at the state capitol, where I fell in love with public service, and that's where I've been ever since. I just want to take this time to really thank this community, our community, for giving me the honor and privilege of representing all of you at the Hawaii State Capitol to help advocate for you. And I'm grateful every single day, and I hope I have made you proud. You know, it is a team effort. We all work together. I appreciate the working relationship that I have with Senator Moriwaki, our neighborhood board, the various stakeholders, from our principals at our school to the Waikīkī Business Improvement Association to HBD. It has always been a team effort. When our constituents are talking about sirens, we are able to pass a bill to offer discretion for our first responders to use their sirens when they need to and when they don't. When people were talking about noisy mufflers, we made it easier for enforcement by passing a pilot program for noise detection cameras so that we can enforce the current laws in our books. When we talk about diversifying our economy, we used ARPA funds to create a Green Jobs Youth program so that we can finally enter into the green energy space. When we needed economic relief, this year the legislature passed the largest income tax cut in our state's history. And now we're talking about condominium insurance, and we are working hard on that. We have a task force. We have the emergency proclamation. The governor just appointed members to the Hurricane Insurance Fund Board, and we are getting that organized and getting that started. We take things seriously because many of you brought these issues to us. When our district needs funding, such as our schools, we're able to get them the basketball court pavement, parking lot pavement. At Alawai Elementary School, where many of our residents go to send their kids to, we're able to get them a new electrical system so that they can page each other whenever there's an emergency or when teachers need something. When Alawai Boat Harbor needed repairs for their piers, we were able to secure that funding for them. And when the beach needed replenishment, we fought for that funding there as well. When Waikīkī Community Center needed grant money, Senator Moriwaki and I fought for their funding as well. Everything that we do as legislators, in terms of how I operate, has always been for the community, for our neighbors. And I am grateful every single day to do the job. And I am happy, and I'm very, very happy to do it. I humbly ask for your support so I can continue this progress working together. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Jillian. I am very happy that we have competition because it pushes for superior performance. Jillian?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jillian Anderson, and I'm your Republican candidate for our Hawaii State House of Representatives this year. There are numerous reasons that I'm running, but really ultimately it's because Waikīkī is my home for as long as I can remember. I moved here when I was just 3 years old with my family. So as you can imagine, this has been an absolutely amazing place to grow up. But also over the last 23 plus years, I've witnessed a lot of evolution in our community. And for the most part, it's been in a decline. We have so many issues that we've spoken about, many of them tonight. We have major issues with crime, public safety, recidivism. We have a major cost of living crisis. Specifically here in Waikīkī, we have a lot of issues within our condominiums, from skyrocketing insurance premiums to a lot of issues with deferred maintenance. We also have an affordability crisis in terms of housing across our state, and the list goes on and on. So what makes me qualified to actually do anything about this in state government? Well, I actually have pretty substantial legislative experience. I have worked for 3 legislative sessions so far. My first legislative session, I was a legislative analyst and researcher for our Hawaii State House, which gave me a fantastic foundation in terms of policy, bill drafting, and how the entire legislative process functions. After that, I'm in the position that I'm currently in. I'm the chief of staff for our House Minority Policy Leader. And in that role, I'm able to see top to bottom how a representative is able to work on behalf of their community, both within the Capitol and within their home district. The motto of our office is "You ask, we act." So I think a lot of us have frustrations with government at all levels that we just keep talking about these same issues for decades and nothing's really getting done. Nothing's getting better. If anything, it's getting worse. So we really just need people in office who understand that they're there to do a job. We need more doers in office. And with this background here, work with our neighborhood board, living in our community for so long, as well as understanding how our legislature works and what we're able to do that we're not really seeing manifest in our day-to-day lives. I would really be humbled to earn your trust in your vote this election and to be able to do better for our community. I have a lot of specific policy proposals, particularly on cost of living, public safety and crime, and infrastructure on my website. It's jillianforhawaii.com. And I look forward to speaking with any of you on any topics of particular significance before we hit the November election. Thank you.
Senator, I think you're by yourself, but come on up. I did not know we were going to have a presidential debate today, so. Senator Moriwaki.
Hello, everyone again. I am Sharon Moriwaki. I've been representing you for the last 6 years almost. And I just want to give you some opportunities tonight. We have no question and answers, but to tell you a little bit about my background, also accomplishments, major accomplishments, and why I'm seeking re-election. I grew up in Sheridan area, so my Senate district covers not only Waikīkī, but Ala Moana, Kalimu'ili'ili, Sheridan, and Kaka'ako. I grew up in the Sheridan area. I went to Kainiki High School, another good public high school. And I also, then both parents worked. They took out a loan so I could go to college. I came back with a doctorate and a law degree. And ever since, I've been in public service. I was in the Governor Waihei's cabinet as the labor deputy director, as the director of the Department of Human Resources Development. I was at the courts, judiciary, as the administrative director of the courts. And I also served at the University of Hawaii as assistant vice president for academic affairs and also associate director for the UH Manoa Public Policy Center. But for me, 7 years ago, it became very evident that we had no voice in the Kaka'ako area. The high rises were going up around us, and it was luxury high rises being sold for millions of dollars to offshore investors. And that's when my neighbors and I got together and said, you know, we need to do something. We went to the board, the Kaka'ako Development Board, tried to get them to stop the building, which we weren't able to accomplish. We also went to our state senator, who also did not help us. And that's when a small group of neighbors decided that we would run our own candidate, and that was me. And since then, we have been working together to make our district better. I vowed at that time when I was elected that I would be our voice for our community, that I would take our voices to the legislature. And I believe that I've done that. We had a platform of housing for residents and also the housing for the homeless. We also looked at the need to fight crime and also to look at how we might address drug addiction and also to help kupuna age in place. In all of these six years that I've been in office, I have had 40 of my bills addressing all of these concerns get passed and also signed into law. And these bills are what came out of your input. from emails, from phone calls, from neighborhood board meetings, as well as my annual survey, which I hope you're all filling in. Because I do look at that. And I want to just introduce Charles Isamoto. He's my legislative and district coordinator. A lot of the bills get drafted. We coordinate that, and we work tirelessly to get some of these bills passed that are critical to our district. As to accomplishments, there's too many, and we have to go to the debate, so as Sheriff Finley tells me. So I did put together kind of a easy to read, not all of the list of bills that you get from me when we have the legislative session. But this tells you everything that we've done, whether it was climate change with Olin and Waikīkī resilience and adaptation planning, as well as homeless, crime, and some of the areas that we're looking at. I just want to say why I'm running for re-election. All of these are complex issues. We've been working on them, and they're not easy to solve. I'll give you one example, homelessness. We still see homelessness, but 3 years ago, I called on 14 agency heads, from the police department all the way to the courts, prosecutor, public defenders, the homeless coordinators for the city and the state. And we came together and I asked them, we're putting all this money into homelessness. Why aren't we ending homelessness? They came up with 29 gaps. And we took 7 of them that year to the legislature, and all those bills passed. And in Waikīkī, there was a reduction. There's 15% reduction in the number of homeless on the streets between 2022 and 2024. But we all agree that is not enough. And so what we have done, and I call them the End Homeless Group, we continue to meet. We're still meeting, and we're looking at a number of issues that we need to have solved, number of programs we need to have. And these are the things that are in process. One is a clearinghouse, an information clearinghouse of being able to track the homeless, being able to know what their needs are, and looking at housing inventory, and also services and treatment. All of this together in one place in the state level so that we can match homeless with services. And so we can start getting them off the street and to appropriate services. And sometimes they may be committing crimes that put them into an appropriate place where they can detox. That's another area that we looked at is detox. Last year, we appropriated under a GIA, a grant and aid, to the Institute for Human Services to start a detox program. And they have, in that 1 year, served over 100 homeless. And they have been 80% successful. But they only have 8 beds, so there's a churn. So I want to see that expanded, and we need to be able to push that out so that we can have more of those beds. We appropriated funds for the AVLA Behavioral Health Prevention Center. That's where CORE can take people, the homeless, and get them served if they're a danger to themselves or others. They don't have a detox center. It's too expensive. So part of what we're trying to do is look at how do we get federal funds, how do we get some state funds to appropriate that so that we actually can see a difference in these people's lives. And the third area is what you might have heard, community outreach courts. These are where the judges come into the community and deal with cases of the homeless. This is where they come to the homeless rather than the homeless having to go down to the courthouse, which then they don't go. And this is another program that is an 8-year pilot. So it's, enough of a pilot. We've got to just get some of these things permanent and help to serve our homeless and help to serve our community. Public safety is a really important part of what I've been pushing, not only with the community policing, but with the law that we just passed, the habitual violent offenders law. But that was passed with sheer pushing and pulling to get it through, but it's a 3-year sunset. which means that we need to evaluate its effectiveness over the next 3 years. So I've been encouraging people, if you see someone being assaulted, if you see anything happen, report it, because the only way that we can get these people off the street is in 3 times in 5 years, they are committing the same crime. And I know John Deutschman has like 40 times that people have been. So being that, I would say being that in part of the solution is really what police need for us to then go to the prosecutor. And what I'm doing in the next week is meeting with the prosecutor and with the police officers to look at how might we enforce this law? How might we find the metrics to be able to say it's effective or not? And what can we do so that we can have a law like this? We have a law, the habitual property crime law, but this is people, and we haven't had this law in the books. So I'm really excited about seeing that this can be a permanent law, and maybe it has to be tweaked. But again, it takes all of us to look at what works and be able to execute on it and hopefully get our streets more safer for all of us. I think in terms of looking at other areas like long-term care, sea level rise that Dolan has been working on, these are all critical issues that are a statewide concern, and we are highlighting some of these in Waikīkī because of the coastline community. It's the last urban coastline that we really need to protect. So this is another area that is, I think, really near and dear to our concerns of really making us safe from sea level rise as well as crime. The one thing I do want to say is that I would like to continue, and that's why I would ask for your vote on November 5th, but also that if reelected, I will continue my pledge to listen to you, to work with you, and to be your voice in the Senate. And I really think that together we can start building this caring, really caring community. So I thank you all for the opportunity to serve.
I'm not sure what happened to Sotoro tonight, but if he's at the next meeting, I'll give him an opportunity to talk as well. I'd like to move the agenda around a little bit. So we have a very important presentation that I would like to get on. Dolan Eversole works at the UH. He's got the best job in the world. It's involves surfing and being on the beach, but they actually make him do some I explained how the Waikīkī beach improvement updates are happening, which is critical to all of us who like to use the beach and want to down in the future continue to do so. So Dolan, if you would.
Great, yeah. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you, Chair, board members. Nice introduction. My name is Dolan Eversole. I'm with the University of Hawaii. I work for an organization called Sea Grant. Many of you may know me in my role as an advisor to Rick Eget and the Waikīkī Beach Special Improvement District. So I'm a beach guy, as Bob mentioned, and I serve to bring science to our decision-making with respect to how we manage Waikīkī Beach, among my many other hats that I wear, but that's my primary hat at the moment. So I wanted to share with you a little bit, just a brief update on some of the project updates on the beach management in Waikīkī. You've probably been maybe following the Waikīkī EIS. I have a couple of updates for you on that. Next slide, if you could. Are you familiar with the Waikīkī Beach Special Improvement District? Do I need to get into this? Okay, I assume that you guys know about the Beach Improvement District. It is bounded by Waikīkī as we're doing great things. We'll just say that. We are partnering with the state on a lot of these beach improvement projects. So when you hear this term public-private partnership, it truly is that, in that the tax money assessed in Waikīkī is going towards cost sharing with the state for some of these projects, if not all of them. Next slide. Okay, now into the meat of it. I've been giving a version of this slide for several years now, but we're on the verge of some some traction happening with the Waikīkī Beach Improvements Environmental Impact Statement. Some of you, if you've been following this, you might be aware that it was being administered and hosted by the Department of Land and Natural Resources. That just recently has changed, and they've transferred essentially ownership of this process, the EIS and the associated projects, to the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, so DBED. So it's still a state project. It's still going to be within the state administration department. And it actually makes sense because the DLNR is more of an environmental regulatory body, and the chair was currently very uncomfortable with this idea of regulating their own project. So it kind of makes sense for it to be in a different department. That just happened maybe about a month ago. So this is a recent transaction, I guess you could call it. There is funding that's going to be funding requests needed to continue the process of going through the EIS. So just a quick history on the EIS. There was a state appropriation back in 2020 for $12 million to do some of these beach improvement projects. I'll get into what those are, but just know that there was funding that has now lapsed. And there's a small portion of that that remains, about $4 million still within the DLNR to do beach improvement projects that are not included in the EIS. So if you hear mention of some of this funding that's still within DLNR, that's for doing more maintenance type projects within Waikīkī to improve the beach. One perfect example of that is right across the street here in the Kuhio Swim Basin, the Diamond Head Basin. There's an idea to simply take the sand that has slumped seaward in that basin and put it back up on the beach as a kind of an ongoing maintenance. So that's one of many projects that are exemplified by that. I mentioned some of that money has lapsed. We're now to develop a cost estimate. So how much is it going to cost to take us through the completion of the final designs? The EIS we're thinking is very near completion, but now the next step will be to go through plans, permits, and final designs. And we don't know how much that's going to cost yet, but that's part of this appropriation cost estimate that we're working with our state partners on. For the EIS itself, this project officially was published in 2021 with the draft EIS. We are now expecting the final EIS. You see, I have their summer of 24. I just found out today it's going to be published in the September 23rd environmental notice. So that'll be the official publication of the final EIS. From there, it goes to the governor for signature and authorization. That does not mean those projects that are in the EIS are authorized. It's just the environmental document that will be used to guide the permitting going forward. But it's an important hurdle, and it's something we've been working towards with the state for about 6 years now. So it might be a new record for the longest EIS ever. I'm not sure. I've been meaning to look into that. Possible construction, let's just say 2026. That would be the earliest possible construction. Next slide. So what is in the EIS? This is a quick fly through of a 1,000-page environmental document. And I have some slides if you want more information. There's great resources we put together online for you to spend some time on, or you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to talk with you personally. There's 4 separate projects, 3 of which are relatively minor. One in the Fort Drusi area is to simply move sand back where it was on the Diamond Head end. So if you think about where the Hilton Pier is, there's essentially an excess amount of sand, some of which originated at the Fort Drusi groin side. If you've been to that area recently, you'll know that that sidewalk gets overtopped regularly. So that's a relatively simple maintenance project. I'm going to skip over the Halekulani for now. Royal Hawaiian Beach, which is the signature legacy beach, that is just proposed to do regular beach maintenance, meaning taking sand from offshore, pumping it back onto the shore every 5 to 10 years. Since that last project in 2022, it seems to be quite stable, more stable than even expected, but it's not going to last forever. We all know that. but something maybe perhaps connected to the Royal Hawaiian groin being replaced, that the whole beach shell seems much more stable than it ever was in the past. The Kuhio Beach area, both the Diamond Head Basin is proposed to remain in its current configuration. There is in the EIS a plan to make a segmented breakwater on the Eva portion, so kind of by the hula mound, where it's way too low and it seems to be ineffective of keeping a beach there. That is a lower priority project. So while it's included in the EIS, that'll be a later stage project. In the appropriation requests right now won't include that portion of it. So the gorilla in the room is this, that's okay, you can go to the next slide. This portion here, the Halekulani beach shell fronting Outrigger, Reef, Halekulani, and Sheraton. You may have seen variations of this, the T-head groin field, 3 T-head groins, what are known as tuned T-heads. So they're not a perfect T, they're actually tuned. There's a very specific reason for that, and the angle of that tuning is really important to the configuration of the beach in the end. This is about, we don't know yet, but maybe a $50 million project. So we're looking carefully at like, well, what is it going to take to get through the final permits and then start to think about funding for this. That's a 60,000 cubic yard sand project compared to our last beach nourishment, which was about 20,000. So it's 3 times larger. You can think of it as essentially 3 separate beach cells that to 3 times the volume of what was done in 2022. If you remember that 40-foot high pile of sand right up front, 3 times that. The initial engineering designs for this have been completed. Engineers go through an iterative process. They go 30% design, 60% design, and then usually 100%, and then you're done. We're probably in that somewhere between 30 and 60%. We kind of know the configuration. They have to finalize some of the, how they're going to do the backstop wall and things like that. So the next step would be for DBED now to contract with a local consultant to do those final designs, plans, and permits. Next slide. Just some more perspective of what that groin field would look like. Next slide. And these are this is just an example of the type of projects that the DLNR is considering to use that $4 million for. And you notice it's not clumped in one area. It's pretty much from the Kapahulu groin all the way down to Port Tarusi. There is the possibility of using it further down towards not for the natatorium, but closer to the natatorium. I know there's a sidewalk repair that's ongoing now through the city, maybe doing some beach restoration down there. You probably can't read this, but a lot of these are really access oriented. So trying to fix the walkways in the Halekulani cell, which are in terrible condition at the moment, and try to repair and maintain the beach in its current configuration. The one thing that differentiates the T-head groin, but the one in the EIS, all of the other projects are attempting to maintain Waikīkī Beach in its current configuration. Basically, just keep it the way it is. That means we have to do things different in the future, though. We can't just do what we always did. This project for the T-head groins is ambitious in that it's attempting to build a beach where there never was one, at least not to that scale. So it is a more aggressive approach to restore the shoreline there. Next slide. So that's the EIS. I wanted to share with you just a brief update on a separate project to do a small scale beach nourishment in the Kawehiwehi area. So that's right where the Halekulani Channel is located. It's really focused really directly in front of Outrigger Reef, which is an area that has experienced really severe erosion just in the last few years. This project is meant to be small scale demonstration to show that we can actually extract sand from the inshore of the Halekulani Channel, so not outside, but inside the reef in shallow water, and get in there with 2022 beach nourishment. Offshore here, it had a lot of big equipment, big barge, big cranes. We're trying to demonstrate a smaller scale approach to doing this. Next slide. So this is the current conditions. You've probably seen it in the news. It's increasingly unsafe to walk through this area, particularly at high tide. The walkway has collapsed. Catamarans are having difficulty landing on the beach there and so forth. It's not and this is a major public thoroughfare through here, as you might expect, because there are seawalls with walkways on top, but they're discontinuous. Next slide. So we did some sediment sampling, we being the Beach Improvement District, trying to understand what are the characteristics of the sand in this channel. We're going to go back out with a local engineering firm to do a little bit more detailed assessment. Depending on the results of that, we'll then be able to say whether or not the sand is compatible with the existing beach. There's real strict requirements on what you put on the beach. It has to match. And in this case, the sand in the channel seems to be a little bit larger grain size, which is a good thing, but it has to match within a certain percent. So there's very specific requirements. We're going through that. Should know that probably in the next on whether or not that's a viable sand source. If it's not a viable sand source, then we're back to square one. We have to find a new sand source. But we're thinking it is. Back in last year, there was $650,000 appropriated, so state appropriation to the DLNR to do this project, in large part thanks to Senator Moriwaki's efforts to get legislation pushed through, or not legislation, but funding pushed through. Again, the demonstration pilot aspect to this, so it's putting sand on the beach, but more importantly, demonstrating a new way to do it. So that's one of the overarching goals. And as you might expect, both the Halekulani and Outrigger hotels are desperate to do something. This is meant to serve as an interim measure until the EIS project can get implemented, if it does get approved in the end. If this is successful, then the hope is just to continue to do it probably on a much more frequent basis, maybe every year, every other year, something like that. Next slide. Gone through this already. Next slide. Okay, I wanted to just introduce this idea because it's going to come up more frequently now of integrating a more holistic, comprehensive planning approach to how we manage the beach. So managing the sand is one component. The reefs are another component. They're all very complementary and symbiotic in nature. Another really critical aspect to this particular cell at the Halekulani is public access along shore. There is fairly decent access to the shoreline, but then once you get there, there's nowhere to go. There's overwashed walkways. I wanted to introduce this idea of a new walkway. And yes, thank you. It's something I actually wrote a grant proposal for a few years ago that was not funded, but it led me down this road of the walkways that are there now are on private land. It's very complicated with liability issues. And so improving those walkways is not as easy as it may seem. And this idea has presented itself as part of the EIS to integrate into the design of how we build these beaches an actual walkway. I might even extend that to say a boardwalk, meaning it's elevated off the sand. But regardless of what it ends up being, there is growing interest in this. I know that, again, Senator Moriwaki introduced a bill last year to explore this in more detail. It did not pass, but it shows that there is legislative interest in this idea. This idea of a walkway is going to come up repeatedly, and I'd be happy to talk with you more if you have questions or concerns about that. Okay, next slide. I think we're just wrapping it up. So I wanted to share with you a new website that we just built. It's a story map, if you're familiar with story maps. It's a website, but it's more of a visual walkthrough than it is a lot of text. And we have built a couple of story maps. And if you are interested, you can scan this code with your phone, and it'll take you right to the website. Or you can simply Google Waikīkī Beach Special Improvement District and then go to the projects page, and you'll see these story maps. We have 3 of them now. One is the condition of the walkway. I did a quick mapping exercise to just demonstrate what the walkway conditions look like. And there's this idea of what if it was a boardwalk at the end, kind of a visual, conceptual drawing. Next slide. And then the other story map, which I hope you would find very interesting and educational, is really more comprehensive to what's going on in Waikīkī. When people ask me, can you share with me what's happened in Waikīkī and what's planned? I send them to this website first, and then I can help answer their questions after. This is a great place to start. Again, separate scan code. It talks about completed projects and proposed projects. So it gives you an idea of where we were, where we are, and where we're going in a very visual way. So it's not a lot of text. I think that was it. Next slide. Yeah, this is just an idea, a conceptual drawing that we had done with a landscape architect a couple years ago, just to illustrate this idea of maybe the walkway is integrated into this beach and growing field design. And how it looks, we're not sure yet. How wide is it? How high is it? Who owns it? There's all these outstanding questions, but clearly there's a demonstrated need to do something there to improve lateral access. And there's some examples. Some of these I took myself from Australia. They have really exceptionally good public infrastructure in different parts of Australia. And there's lots of places we can look to get inspiration for what these boardwalks and walkways could look like. And that's all I have for you.
Yeah, just a question. I mean, for those of us who've been on the board for a long time, it seems like this project's been kicking around forever. And so I'm happy to see it moving forward. I'm curious why the money lapsed. Was it because they couldn't spend it in time, or could they not encumber it in time? Did the EIS take too long? What happened, basically?
Yes, to all three of your proposed answers. Yes, funding's only good for 2 years, and you can extend it, which we did. And legislators don't like to continually extend money because that type of thing. So the money lapsed in part because the EIS took much longer than we thought. We were not able to get into construction mode in time to encumber that money. So $12 million, that was thought to be enough to build the T-head groins back 5. But now the number has jumped up quite a bit.
So I mean, is the idea to try to get that money reappropriated by the next legislature?
That's right. So the intention right now, yes, to the appropriation for the construction funds, but that will come later because we don't know how much the project's going to cost yet. You could ask for 50 million, but that might be a stretch. I think what's reasonable right now is to ask for an appropriation for the completion of the the permits, final designs, and all the plans and construction drawings. Then we would know from that how much the construction would cost, which would be in the second biennium anyways.
Yeah, you might as well figure out exactly what you got. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't notice a presentation. Well, this goes to both, I guess, but I didn't notice a presentation for this on the shared drive. Is that correct? Okay, but I didn't see it posted. One concern I have, and this is a board issue, but it's part of what we should be doing. If you're going to present something like that, and that was a long presentation, the public needs to be aware of it. I, as a board member, need to be able to review that. I hope it's gonna go there now, so that's good. It should be there before, though. I believe it's 4 days is the requirement, so we can discuss that offline later. That's number one. Number two is I do have concerns with the previous sand replenishment project. I had just arrived to Hawaii in 2020. We were under lockdown then when I came. In early 2021, I went to go for a swim. I had just lost my brother-in-law. I went into the ocean and I'm swimming around with all these little black pieces of I didn't know what. And then when I started to look better and took a little sample, I went home, went back to the beach, got a little vial and took some out. It was plastic shards or plastic pieces. Long story short, because it's a long story, but eventually I reached out to DLNR. I knew they were doing the dredging. I have an engineering background. I'm pretty savvy at like looking into things. And I realized what they were doing with the polyethylene pipes, the high density polyethylene, is they were doing something where that plastic was coming off. The only way that could happen is either internally with the sand, or which is doubtful because it's all going into one pile, or being dragged. And ultimately, after I reached out to KHON to Two, had an interview, a news story with Gina Mangieri, which you can go back and watch. It's still posted. We realized, because then DLNR admitted that they were dragging the dredge pipes. So they were damaging the reef. Plastic was going all over the ocean. I actually was working with someone from a different university, not the one you represent, that analyzed the material for me pro bono and realized that that's what it was, high density polyethylene. It was part of the pipes, and said that that also can harm the fish, the sea life, because they can ingest it and it's sharp and jagged and get caught into their system. So I hope we don't ever see that again. I know I'll be the first one to be watching and monitoring that. That's a concern. And then Lewis asked the other concern I had, why did the money lapse? So that was the third question. So if we could get more, I think I'm going to want more information on the future dredging. Thank you very much.
Maybe if I could just real briefly address your question. I recall when that the black beads were coming up, and it was in fact because the pipeline was rubbing on the reef. And it stemmed from the fact that they had these concrete weights holding it down. They just didn't put enough weight on it, particularly where the pipeline came in and it was parallel with the wave energy. So that's a simple fix. And there's actually since then a new law that's passed that does not require the dewatering of the sand. So you recall we put it in the one basin. We don't need to do it that way again. We can actually pump it directly to where it needs to go, and it's more of a straight shot.
Thank you for that follow-up. And I will add this, though. The number of phone calls I had to make to various people to get anyone to really address that was, at that stage too, I had just lost a family member, was not something I ever want to go through again. And I see this as kind of a process in this state. There's a lot of people that push things away. I just don't want that experience in the future. That's part of the reason I sit here. There's only a few people left in the audience, but whoever watches this, that's why I get engaged in community issues and involvement. And that's why I sit on this board, because I see things and I want to make them better. I want change. And that's why I went and did that interview. So go look it up. The title of it, if anyone's interested to watch it, it was April 2nd, 2021. What's causing plastic shards to litter Waikīkī waters? I was interviewed by Gina Mangieri. You'll see me there. And scooped it up, and we held it up, and there's the plastic shards. But I do appreciate going forward that that things are done better. Thank you.
Dolan, as a long-standing member of this board, I am so happy that you're here tonight to make this presentation. And I hope we can move forward. I've stayed at the outrigger. There is no beach. I mean, you walk directly from their steps into the water. And I'm very concerned, should we have a big storm come up, what's going to happen to the outrigger itself? Because I believe the waves will go right across the entire lobby. So keep up what you're doing, do it faster, and get the money. Sharon, refund him. He does, he's got a plan. We've got it, yay. Go for it, Dolan, go for it.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead,
Sir, I wanted to talk about the same thing that Catherine just brought up. I walk from the Hilton Hawaiian Village all the way down to Deuce all the time. I used to, but that situation where the seawall has collapsed and the waves are just hitting the building there, that seems to be like a critical situation that needs almost, kind of dramatic action or it destroys that building. I mean, she's right. If a big wave comes, God knows. I mean, I've been at the Monkey Pod restaurant and sitting there and watch the waves come right in the windows. So I mean, it's really bad. How long can that situation persist without remedy?
That's a great question. It's clearly not a good situation. It's, as you mentioned, it's hitting the side of the building. That's not a seawall. It wasn't designed to take that impact. We've been talking with the management and ownership there, and they're confident the building is structurally sound, but they are not happy with the situation. Clearly, it's not a good thing for anybody. So there's a lot of interest in this. I shared with you this EIS is kind of over the horizon still. It's maybe 2 years away at the soonest. This beach nourishment project, the Kawehiwehi small scale, that could really do a lot to buy us some time, stabilize the area. Even if the sand is only there for a year or two, the good thing is we know exactly where it's going to go. It's going to go right back in the channel, but it might really stem that problem, at least temporarily. I just want to mention one more thing too. Senator Moriwaki mentioned earlier this Waikīkī Resilience and Adaptation Project just recently completed. I was part of that. It was through the University of Hawaii. We identified short, medium, and long-term planning and adaptation pathways for Waikīkī, not beach related, but on the land side. And there's interest now in integrating this idea of adaptation pathways and phasing in of different elements and different strategies over time into the beach as well. So we need to stop working in isolation where, the beach people do the beach stuff and the land people do land because they're so connected. So there is interest in trying to connect the EIS and have more of a conceptual planning concept to how we're going to adapt at least the shorefront. Stay tuned.
Sarah, you have a question?
Hi, Mr. Eversole. I thank you for being here tonight. I know we spoke a while ago and I expressed to you my concerns about the fact that the Royal Hawaiian and Kuhio Beach were receiving all of the sand and all the funds, when in the past, actually, DLNR's been in charge of replenishing the sand since 1939. And if you look at the DLNR, where they've dumped the sand, they have a more scheduled, and it goes from one end of Waikīkī to the other. And the Waikīkī Special Improvement District for the beach, it goes all the way from Queens all the way down to the boat harbor. That's actually where I go and surf, over by Rock Pile. So I'm not sure why on your pictures I don't see anything for the Hilton. I'm glad that Fort DeRussy now is getting attention. I know people at the board complain that I complain, but it does get things done, because before there wasn't plans to address that. And actually, I did look at after Mr. Ken Jacob mentioned the walkway. I mean, I've been going there since I was a little girl. There used to be a decent beach there when I was younger. But the reason why the walkway collapsed, the reason why we're worried about the building, is because we have allowed this sand to erode so much that that's an issue. And then, so my concern is, I want to address that again, is that, all of the businesses in Waikīkī chip in for the Waikīkī Beach Improvement Association, but yet I'm seeing all the funds going towards just 2 beaches. And that happened in last time they received sand was in 2020, I believe. But you said that every 5 to 10 years was a maintenance. Every 5 to 10 years is when a beach would receive sand again. And as Mr. Ken Jacobs pointed out, the fact that the walkway is collapsing, I'm not a biologist, I'm no scientist, but that seems pretty critical. So I'm not sure why we're not addressing that more thoroughly. And quite frankly, the 5 T-groins, they look dreadful, my personal opinion. And I'm worried too, but there was concerns about how it's going to affect the surfing, how it's going to affect a number of things. So I know I'm following up Noah with Rachel Briggs, but I have a lot of concerns, especially now that DLNR's handed off all these improvements to the commercial department, or I'm sorry, I can't remember the title. But as you said, you're a scientist. You're supposed to be focusing on the science of which beaches are best. And now we're going completely from environmental to commercial, which is a huge concern for me, because I'm in Subdistrict 1, where we have a lot of mom and pops stores. We don't have a lot of power. We don't have the big hotels like the Royal Hawaiian who can lobby better than Subdistrict 1. So those are my concerns.
Thank you. I just want to briefly address your comment about the EIS going to DBED. It's actually going to be administered by the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. So they do very much have an environmental focus. And I'm confident that they're going to, adhere to all the, rules and regulations related to environmental restoration like this. With respect to where the projects are occurring, what you see in the EIS is a result of a 3-year process that we went through engaging stakeholders in Waikīkī. And we've set up a Waikīkī community of Waikīkī, the surfing community, beach boys, lifeguards, hotel operators, local government. We had 30 some odd people, and they identified their priority areas. So that's what you see in the EIS. It's reflected the priorities and values of the community, that at least those that we asked that we thought were representative of the community. You may be aware that Hilton also tried to do their own small dune back beach restoration, which did not get approved by the DLNR. So yeah, there's a lot of complexities to where we do, but it's clearly the Halekulani and Royal Hawaiian are the 2 highest priority beaches for now. Doesn't mean that we won't look at those other beaches later, but those are where we would start for now.
Other questions for Dolan? And I assume you all understand that, as we said, not all of this money comes from the state. A lot of it comes from the visitor industry. I don't know the numbers, but it's a lot of money that they're sitting on. Not nearly enough, but a lot they're sitting on. Is that a way to describe it?
Yeah, maybe something to acknowledge. I mentioned this early on my presentation tonight. The Waikīkī Beach Special Improvement District is a tax district, generates about $1 million a year, and that money is starting to add up. And the idea with that is it would be a cost share with the state towards this project, the large project. Past projects have been 50% cost share with the Beach Improvement District. So the Sandbag Groin at Kuhio, the Royal Hawaiian Groin, and the last beach nourishment all were 50% paid for by private, you could call it private money through a special assessment. So, yes, and that money is starting to collect up by design to cost share with the state for one of these projects coming up. We won't be able to come up with half of 50 million though, I can tell you that.
Anything else for Dolan? Thank you. And I will invite you back as progress happens on this. We might get hung up on this. I'd like to go to approval of Tuesday, August 13th, 2024 regular minutes. I know Sarah had some corrections. Lou had some corrections. Did you get all those corrections? Okay, Greg, do you have some other corrections?
Yeah, I have too many to be able to address this evening. One of the things, I'll make a quick comment. I know we're low on time here. So I won't get into the nitty gritties except to state that the meeting minutes that I'm seeing, at least this one, and I'm sure if I go back and look a little further, this meeting minutes in particular, so we'll focus on this, it's on agenda, does not reflect properly all of what happened during the meeting. There's quite a bit of omissions. There's some errors included. I'm sure maybe that's where Sarah and others picked up. There's some names that were different, wrong. There's no way you could do that this evening and get it clean because there's way too much that's missing. I will just want to read one statement from the section of our neighborhood plan, the meeting minutes, which states, a board shall keep written minutes of all meetings unless otherwise unless otherwise required by law. Neither a full transcript nor a recording of the meeting is required, but the written minutes shall give a true reflection of the matters discussed at the meeting and the views expressed by the members and participants. And there's many views that were expressed or have been expressed that aren't being noted there, including simply as a point of order that I think should always be noted on the meeting minutes. So in my opinion, it's not compliant to the neighborhood plan. I know other boards and other board members on other boards. I think this board also, I think Sarah, maybe Sarah, maybe not. I don't want to speak for Sarah, but have shared that same concern with me. So I will say I would ask to defer it, and I can, Anson, I can get you more information on what I'd like to be added to it.
That's fine with me.
This will be deferred till next meeting. Please send any corrections you have. Jillian, do you have any report from Sub-District 2 that you'd like to make? No. Catherine from Sub-District 3?
I just want to thank John Deutschman for all the effort he's made to provide us with information about what's happening crimes in the Waikīkī area. He's done an outstanding job.
When we come back next month, Jeff Murr should be here so we can complete the rest of this agenda. Seeing no more items on there. Actually, let's adjourn. Sound good? Help us